Yes po.
So what are the objectives of this project? First, it enhances the knowledge and skills of the students in Python programming. Second, it encourages students to continually improve their programming skills through independent learning and collaboration with peers. And third, help students understand the real-world applications of Python programming, such as simulating planets and other uses such as scientific computing. Next. Next slide, please. So the schedule objective is to be able to develop and simulate the movements of the planets in our solar system using Python within the given time period. And the technical objectives are to provide visualization of the planet's orbits and other behavior in the simulation. Second, to provide a model for the gravitational forces between the planets.
Ayan. Para naman sa deliverables, the services will be provided by our project is the solar system application. And since it can be used as a learning tool, yung mga users naman na pwedeng gumamit ito are the students, learners, and teachers or educators. Next naman is the flowchart, which will be presented by Jeremy.
Hello. Rinig po ba ako? So, ayun. Sa left side po muna tayo mag-start. And yung start ng ating program, sa umpisa mag-i-import po tayo ng mga kakailangan ng libraries, which is the turtle, time, and math import. And then after nun, i-display na natin yung graphic window na kakailanganin. And isiset natin yung position, yung size niya, color of the screen, background of the image, ay background image of the screen. And magsiset tayo ng delay na kakailanganin para ma-update yung drawings. After that, i-display natin yung sun. And isiset natin yung shape niya, yung size, and then yung color. After that, magdi-display po tayo ng text na solar system simulation, and which kasama na rin yung mga label niya sa sun and the other planets. Next. So yun, na-display na yung mga label ng planets. After ma-display yung mga label ng planets, tatawagin natin yung function na init para ma-display na yung mismong planet. So kasama na rin sa ma-display yung satellite ng Earth, which is the moon, and yung satellite na Phobos and Deimos. So yan, na-display na natin yung mga planets and satellites. Next slide. So sa left side makikita po natin yung function na init. Ayan po yung nagdi-display ng planets. And then after that, magke-create po tayo ng array list na nagko-contain ng mga planets kasama na yung mga satellites. After that, i-initialize po natin si I to 0 para ma-access po natin yung elements ng my list. After that, pupunta po tayo sa for loop. I is less than 11. So, since I is equals to 0 pa naman, magto-true pa muna siya. So, kapag true, tatawagin natin yung method na pen up from the turtle library to remove the pen of the digital canvas. And then tatawagin natin yung method na go to para ma-move yung pen to an absolute position. So if I.star is equals to sun, pag true siya, doon tayo mag-i-start mag-drawing ng orbit para sa mga planets. And kung false naman, hindi tayo magdo-drawing. Pero i-increase na natin pa rin natin si I by 1. So pag nag-increase na si I by 1, pupunta ulit tayo sa my list I and para ma-access natin yung next element. So pag nag-false na si I is less than 11, pupunta na po tayo sa G. So next slide.
Jeremy, naka-mute ka.
So dito po sa sa while loop natin, ito po yung nagpapa-loop ng planets, nagpapagalaw ng planets. So as long as hindi niya kino-close yung button, gagalaw yung planets. And magpa-perform tayo ng screen update. Tatawagin natin yung function na move para ma-compute yung planet's movement. And then magsaset tayo ng delay execution to 0.01 seconds for moving planets. And pagka nag-false na po yung user, pag pinulost na niya, doon na po tayo mag-exit ng program and doon na po mag-end yung program natin.
Gandang makita yan, eh.
Sa user requirements naman, since all we need to do is to run the program, there are no specific requirements now for the users to use the application. And anyone, including the students and educators, can use the solar systems simulator. Next slide, please. Next is the success factor. We identify elements that are key to success of the project, such as the target project objectives are met. Objectives of the project were successfully accomplished by our group. Next is the satisfied clients or stakeholder users. All the clients and the users were all satisfied naman. Next slide po.
Yeah. Now let's move on to the roles and responsibilities of the team, starting off with the person who manages the entire team, our project manager, Ms. Johanna Benaliro. Next are the technical writers of the team, Ms. Shania Ramos and Mr. Jetro Medina. The project will not be presented without him, our programmer, Mr. Carlens Almeda, and our business analyst, Mr. Malcolm Murillo. Next is our technical architect, Mr. Stephen Labinay, and of course, our system analyst, Mr. Jeremy Cayabyab. With that, I would also like to commend my group mates who've also contributed outside their given roles. Outside their given roles and responsibilities. To Mr. Stephen Labinay for contributing in the technical writing, and to Ms. Johanna Benalirao and Mr. Jeremy Cayabyab for their contribution on the program of this project. Next slide, please. Next. Next slide.
Wait, ayun.
Ayan. Now let's move.
Okay.
Now let's move on to the implementation of the project. First off are the tasks or activities that should be done in our project. And of course, the task will be all about the producing the system. And that starts with the design. Design wherein we brainstorm what kind of project we're going to do and what are the things needed to create the project. What are the do's and don'ts and of our project and things like that. Next is the development, where we are now building the structure of the program and executing the design we have made. Next is the presentation, which we're going to do right now. And so next is the procedures, wherein we have used Scrum or SCRUM as our methodology. The Scrum method is usually used in the development of software because it is adaptable, fast, flexible, and effective agile kind of framework. That's why we chose it to use in our project. Next are the tools we have used. So the computer language that we have used is Python, since it is a general purpose programming language and more efficient on our project. And for our IDE or integrated development environment, we have used VS Code or Visual Studio Code to develop this project. Lastly, the project change control process. So Scrum method has two control process, iterative and incremental. Incremental is a progressive progress of growing something bigger in regular chunks. Meanwhile, iteration is about repeating an action several times over with a view to improve it or vary it somehow. So in this project, we have used the iterative process, wherein the team takes a first cut of a system knowing it is complete or weak in some areas. Perhaps Then the team iteratively refine those areas until the product is satisfactory. So next slide, please. So next is the project schedule and milestones. So we've started to identify the project we're going to do last November 25 and started to do the design of the project last November 27. After that, we've started to develop the project last November 30, and now it comes down to the presentation of our project, which is now December 16. Now let's move on to the presentation of our project to be presented by Mr. Carlan Salmeda.
Kita na po ba?
Yep,
Yes,
that's
yes,
the
yes.
code.
So ito po yung yung code ng program po namin na app na solar system simulation. So na-explain na po ni Jeremy yung kanina yung flow ng program. So i-explain ko na lang din po yung sa code. So ito po yung libraries. Nag-import kami ng Turtle, Time, and Math. So yung sa Turtle, doon po nag-show ng Windows para makita po yung app. And yung sa Time naman po, yung sa planets. And sa Math, yung calculation po ng planets para mag-rotate po sa offset. So yung pangalawa, ito yung turtle screen. So ito yung resolution, yung setup. Then background color and background pick. So dito naman sa 11th line, ito po yung sa print ng text. Nag-input po ako ng pena para hindi po ma-distract yung background pick and ma-stable lang po yung text. So ayan, nag-yellow yung color po. So yung go to po, ayun po yung x-axis.
Comment na.
Then yung sa 350 po is yung y-axis. So dito po na mag-input po ang class planet para maging callable po yung nag-declare ko pong planet. So after nyan, yung calculation and computation po ng solar or yung rotation po ng mga planets. So ito po yung angle na computation, yung def move x self dot offset plus self radius. After nyan, ito na po yung dito na po yung makikita yung pag-rotate po ng mga planets, yung Earth, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. So yung 300 po, ayun po yung saan po magsisimula yung planet is ito po yung x-axis din po, 300. Tapos ito po ang pangalawa yung color. Tapos ito po yung size. Then ito po yung around the sun. Tapos ito po yung y. Naka-stable lang po sila lahat. Para isa-isa lang po sila magagaling na site. So ito po yung pag ni-run po, naka-exe na po. Pag ni-run po yung file, ito po.
Oh.
Bali po loop po yan, infinite loop. Hindi po siya titigil hanggat hindi po pinapress yung A para ma-exit or yung exit button po ng Turtle Graphics.
Wag po kompleto ng circumference yan.
Bali po ma'am, ayan po, paikot-ikot lang po siya. Complete niya po. Bali, pinapakita lang po yung yung pag-ikot po ng mga planets. So ayun po, pag pinrest ko po yung A, so mag-quit po siya. So ayun lang po, ma'am.
May moons. Ilan yung moons ng Saturn? Di ba madaming maano yung Saturn? De, joke lang. Sandali lang ako, sandali lang. Meron lang akong itatanong dito. Sandali. Gusto kong makita ito simula mo ulit yan kasi hindi ko nakikita yung sinasabi mo kanina. Kasi nasa code ka na, kaya okay. ilagay mo dun sa taas. Tapos simulan mo ulit. Pero teka lang, sandali. At may tatanong lang ako dito sa ano. Paki-show nga uli yung code. Ano. Ayan. Ilan lines yung code nito? Okay. So, binilang nyo talaga. Tapos saka siya mag-aano ng circumference.
Opo, ito po yung speed. Speed po nung pag-ikot po ng mga planets. Yung motion po.
Nag-gets ko. Okay. Good. Alright. Appreciate ko yung inyong ano. Nakakali. Pero yung doon kasi ako na-amaze din sa pag-ikot, no? Yung ikot na yun. Bakit ba ipin mo? Kaya ginaganyan mo sa akin. Okay. Alright. Sige. Doon tayo ngayon sa ano, answer.
Sige po.
Q&A. Sige. Same question lang. Ito lang yung itatanong ko sa lahat. Ano? So, representative of three from your ano pag-isipan nyo. Three from your group, from group 1 na sasagot. Ano yung feature nung inyong app na gusto ninyo ng bawat isa, no? So tatlong sagot 'yon. At bakit? And then ano yung portion dyan na nahirapan kayo? Tapos how did you resolve it? Ayan, so tatlo yung sasagot. Sige, pag-isipan nyo. Okay, balikan natin ito. Sige, simulan nga uli yung sinasabi mo. Habang nag-iisip sila kung paano nila sasagutin mo. Sige, Annalyn, go. Belen. Sige. Photo image. Log in. Tapos show inventory. Yung show inventory, yun yung para dun sa inventory ng ano. Yung app ninyo, no? Sige. Yung sabihin yung developer niya, iba pa yung ano niya. Iba pa yung application na ginawa niya. Kopya mo lang yan, Annalyn. The same. Okay. Nasa na si ano. Ano? May sasagot na? Simulan natin. Sino na magsasagot? Mauna.
Ma'am, ako po muna una sasagot sa grupo.
Sige.
Yung sa app po namin, yung feature po na nagustuhan ko po dun is yung wait lang po. Yung pag-ikot po ng planets po, ma'am. Kasi po alam naman po natin na yung solar mga planets po is hindi naman po sila sabay-sabay umiikot sa orbit po nila. I mean, meron po silang days, years po bago po sila makabalik po dun sa kagaya po dun sa simulation po namin, bago po sila use sa parang starting point po, which is yung sa left po. So, ayun po yung mas nagustuhan ko po sa feature namin po. Tapos, yung sa second po na tanong niyo po kung saan po kami nakahirapan, yung sa calculation din po. Kasi po, yung dun po connected din po siya dun sa nagustuhan po pong feature namin. Kasi hindi naman po kami physics gods po. As ayun po, nag-search po kami kung paano po yun magagawa ng paraan po para mapaikot po namin. Yun din po. Yep.
Two more. Sino next? Dalawa pa. Wala pa. Hmm. Hmm. Yes, Jethro. Go.
Yan, ma'am. So, sa first question po, saan po kaming part nahirapan other than the calculation po sa paggamit po ng turtle. Kasi hindi rin po madaling gamitin yung turtle na tool po or yung turtle na extension. So, yun po doon. And sa part naman po na nagustuhan or feature, nagustuhang feature ng project namin is yung hindi lang po planets yung kasamang umiikot doon sa program. Meron din pong moons ng mga planets na nag-orbit. Kaya na-appreciate lang.
May point. Okay.
Ako po, ma'am. Ay, last po. Ako po yung nag-program po.
Sige.
So yung nagustuhan ko po feature po dito sa planet po. Yung pag-ikot po ng mga planets, yung orbit po talaga. Pinapakita po talaga yung solar system na simulation po talaga. Then, saan po ako nahirapan is yung sa turtle po na library. Kasi po, pag kino-close ko po yung program, nag-error po. So, may ginawa po ako para para po maayos yung error. So, which is yung naglagay po ako ng key na para mag-quit po yung program, para hindi po mag-error. So, yung letter A po, yung para mag-quit po yung program. Then, yung sa ano po rin, paglagay po nung naikot na Domos, saka yung moon po, ito po, yung naikot po na yan. Yung maliliit po na gray, saka white. Diyan din po ako nahirapan sa calculation po. So, ayun lang po, ma'am.
Appreciate ko yan. Good job, good job. Bigyan natin ng clap, everyone. Bigyan na rin natin ng heart. Okay. Next, group 3. Group 3 setup.
Ma'am, kita na po.
Go.
So good day, everyone. Our project is the simulation of Conway's game of.
Ano to, hangman? Maganda. Yes. So, walang audio.
Hello po. Na-mute po pala. Sorry po. So in this project, Conway's game of life will be developed using Python language. This application is made up of a two-dimensional orthogonal grid of square cells, each of which can be in one of two states, live or dead. So, paano nga ba siya nagiging live or dead? Next slide, please. So, each square or cell on the grid can either be alive or dead, and they evolve according to the following rules. Any live cell with fewer than two live neighbors dies as if by underpopulation, and any live cell with more than three live neighbors dies as if by overpopulation, and any live cell with two or three live neighbors lives unchanged to the next generation. So sila lang yung nagsusurvive through the next generation. Yung underpopulated and overpopulated cells will die. And merong isang unique na rule dito na any dead cell with exactly three live neighbors comes to life as if nagre-reproduce siya. Kaya rin siya tinawag na game of life kasi parang sinisimulate niya yung mga microorganisms or tayo as humans na mamamatay tayo if we are underpopulated, and we will also die if we are overpopulated, and we also reproduce. And yun lang po for our project description.
So next po is yung project scope. For this project, we have listed the tasks to be completed. First is to determine the project's goal and participants, establish and complete the project's objectives, finish the project and meet its objectives, expand or improve the application for Conway's Scheme of Life, conduct tests on the application that was developed using the specified programming language, and lastly, meet the project's members' tasks and obligations.
Yes.
For our project's goal or business need, our project goals and business need is to provide entertainment, to deliver a satisfying experience and contented feeling, and to be an interesting method of occupying one's time. Yet, we all know that one's attention span may rapidly alter. As a result, the games on the market should be continually developed, and the game we will build should also adapt to that need. Finally, research showed that games generate the most money compared to other types of application. This basic Python project will be an excellent investment for startups. There are two stakeholders or users in this project. First, the players of the game, which is appropriate for people of all ages. Lastly, the firms who make phones and computers that are interested in having a basic game that is already installed on their products. For the project objectives, we have two: technical and schedule. For the technical, our objectives is to fully produce and execute a simple Python program. Next is to build a game using the Python programming language and to utilize PyCharm as an integrated development environment throughout the process of developing and finishing the application. For the schedule is to finish the project within the allotted time given to us. And for the deliverables, the services provided by our project is the Python project Conway's Scheme of Life, written in Python language. For the client or user requirements, anyone who wants to have fun playing a simple low-effort game, and any computer or mobile phone user can play this game.
So in success factors, we identify the elements that are key to success of our project. Number one is to fulfill our goal, as discussed earlier. Number one is to provide entertainment and interesting method of occupying one's time. Number two, reach every technical objective set for the project. Number one namin sa technical objective na yon ay yung to produce a game using the Python language without any errors and bugs. Tapos, Lastly, reach schedule schedule objective, which is to finish our simple application within the given period. Next slide po. Yan. So we can see our simple Conway's Game of Life application logo here. Ayan. Next slide, I'll introduce to you our project team roles and responsibilities. Our project manager, Kia Marie, responsible for planning, organizing, and directing us into the completion of our project.
Na tayo
Next.
sa ano ha, Q&A. Same question, no? Anong
Next is the group's technical writer, Sophia Margaret, and I, responsible for the documentation, PowerPoint presentation, and logo creation. Our business analysts, Mark Cedric and Camille, responsible for the flowchart creation as they knew the process of our program. Lastly but not the least, our great programmer, JR, and Kia, also our project manager, responsible for writing the codes and ensuring production runs smoothly with no errors and bugs. To sum it up, despite the fact that each member of the team has a specific duty, everyone is the team in the team is prepared to step in and assist with the work of any other roles anytime as it is necessary. Next slide po. Ayan. Our implementation, so we have these tasks and activities, construct, design, and innovate the game, and present the game. As for our procedure, we use agile methodology or the Scrum. We use PyCharm as our tools, and in the project change control process, Scrum using iteration process. Ayan. Thank you.
Hi. And done? Sige, go. Wala akong naririnig dito sa flowchart.
Good day, everyone. Hello, rinig po ba? Okay, so now we will be discussing the overall process of the game we made through the flowchart. So here we made two flowchart, one for the logic of the game itself and one for the interface of the game. We separated it to give us a better view on how the game runs and show it in the simplest manner. For the game's logic, as you can see, it will start on the displaying of the screen. And as the user generates cell, the game will run on a while loop, determining if the cells inputted by the user has neighboring cells in the X and Y axis, which is its location. Now, as it determines if there are cells at each location, it will branch out into two parts. First is if there are cells in the location and the number of neighboring cells are less than 2, or known as the underpopulation, or greater than 3, known as the overpopulation, then the cell will be killed. But if the underpopulation and the overpopulation wasn't met, then it will show the new generation of cells. The second path will be that if there are no cells in each location, we'll determine if the neighboring cells are equal to 3. If yes, a new cell will be born, known as reproduction. Then we'll proceed to showing of the new generation of the cells. If no, it will immediately proceed to the showing of the new generation of cells. Then if there are no more cells, then it will stop, as in the game will not do anything unless the user presses another key. Now here is Camille to discuss the second flow chart.
So for the second flowchart for the interface of the program, so once the program starts, it will top left side of the program, and if the user presses any key, for example, the user press F1, it will show or hide the menu. Then if the user presses the space bar, it will run or pause the program. Then, for example, if the user presses the plus button, it will add one generation to generation per second, or if the user presses R, it randomizes position or starting cells. So if the user presses P, make tile bigger size or it create a new screen. And if the user presses E, it will reset and create new screen. So if the user presses escape or Q, it will exit the program.
Okay, go. Cell. Cell phone. Circular. Ah,
Wait lang
Ma'am,
po, ma'am.
sorry po. May connection issues lang po ako.
sige.
Si JR po ang po.
Yan.
Good day everyone. Kita po ba?
Kita na po.
Ito po yung code namin. Ito po yung mga modules na ginamit. Yung Ether tools is responsible for cycling to the colors and the tile size, and the random for randomization, and the Pygame for the windows and other events. Yung cell colors is solely for colors of the cell, yung nakikita natin. And the fonts or the fonts of our menu. The game settings for the width, the height of our window or screen, and the mouse buttons left and right. Class cell, which means ito yung makikita natin na pwede nating i-manipulate kung mamamatay, mabubuhay. May function siya sa loob. Off means dead, so color niya black. On means alive, which magiging color white. And function na survive, meaning gumagalaw pa siya but not na hindi pa buhay, so the color will depend on what the user chose. And escape, and the game basically ito yung responsible for everything nakikita natin sa screen. And the settings, ito yung ating variables, lahat sila, set none and others. Yung new responsible for the screen, and it is also responsible for the creation of new screen every time the game resets. Run is run, basically means it runs the whole program. And draw grid, meaning ito yung nakikita natin na horizontal and vertical lines sa ating screen. And then yung blit, responsible for the settings of the main menu. Nakita natin yung font color, font size, the menu.
tsaka yung position. Yung draw menu, ito na kung ano yung makikita sa menu ng mga text. And draw, ito yung grid, and then yung menu. Yung randomize, meaning it lets the user to randomize the position of alive cells and then play with it instead of manually doing it. Kia?
So in new generation, this function decides which cell will survive the next generation and which cell will live through the next generation. So yung kino-compare niya po yung bawat click or yung position ng cursor in the game. Inaano niya po yung mga cells, kino-compare niya. So dito sa if cell is alive, i-compare niya if yung value ng mga neighbors or yung katabing neighbor ng cells is less than 2 or greater than 3. Kapag true yun, hindi niya ilalagay dun sa temporary array. Kapag true, i-append niya. Else dead. Kasi kapag dead, di ba, kapag equals to 3 yung neighboring cell, may mabubuhay na cell. So, kapag, once na mag-true yung if, i-append niya rin ulit dun sa temporary array and then else, hindi niya i-append. So, ayan, yung part na to, nagde-decide lang kung ano yung magiging color ng new generation of cell. And then for the events, ito yung parang main nagko-control ng internal processes. So, kinukuha niya yung kung ano yung key na pinipress ng user. If, kung na-press niya yung escape, mag-quit. Kapag na-press niya yung space, mag-run or magpo-pause yung program. Kapag pindot niya yung F1, mag-show yung menu, mag-hide yung menu, and so on. So, ayan. Yung pg.mouse.getPressed yun, kinukuha niya lang yung state ng mouse buttons. Kapag left button yung press ng user, yung color ng cell is magiging red. And parang yun yung magde-decide ng kung ano yung mga magiging alive na cell. And kapag pinindot niya naman is right button, magiging black yung cell and ibig sabihin mamamatay yun. So yun. If the game is not paused, it will continue to create new generation. Mag-update yung screen ng new generation. And then ayun, tatawagin niya lang dito yung function na game. Tapos ilulup niya to infinitely para maano yung screen. So ayun po. Wait lang po, i-share ko lang po yung game.
Ano itsura nito, no? Kasi cell, nagano kayo ng picture ng cell, gano'n.
Wait lang po.
Kasi, bakit ako na-curious? Kasi ito ay parang may nag-present ng ganito sa 4th year. Tumablay sila dun sa, sa graphics. Kaya, Python din yung ginamit. Tingnan natin.
Actually po ba? Nakikita po ba?
Nakita.
So, ayan po. Kapag sinabi, di ba, na dalawa lang or isa lang yung neighboring cell mamamatay. Kapag naman madami, mamamatay din. Pero if tatlo, wait lang. If tatlo, mabubuhay siya. So, sorry po. Parang naglalag lang yung laptop ko. Po kasi, masyado pong malaki yung ng Zoom. Kaya po ganyan. Pero normally po, hindi po siya ganyan. JR, kaya ba sa laptop mo?
Wait lang.
Sobrang bagal sa laptop ko.
Sobrang bagal. Ba't naging puti?
Ayan po, ibig sabihin po na nagiging alive yung, nabubuhay po yung cell.
Buhay yung okay.
Wait lang po. Si JR na lang po yung mag-share kasi hindi po kaya talaga sa laptop.
Sige.
So, ayan po. Makikita niyo po dito. Once na maklik ni JR yung mga cell, ayan po yung magiging alive cells. Sige lang. Kahit ano mo lang, ayan. Kapag randomize,
Parang
ganyan
COVID.
po yung i-random niyo yung ano. Tapos pwede naman pong mag-draw din kayo ng sarili niyong pattern. And pwede niyo rin pong pabagalin or pabilisin yung ano yan, sa generation per second. Sige, ano mo lang. Damihan mo pa. Ano mo lang. Gusto mo i-zoom mo na konti yung ano, tile size. Yan. Hindi, konti lang. Sobrang laki. yan. Try mong baguhin yung color. I-zoom out mo pa nga lang konti. Laki masyado. Sige. Yan na lang. Ayan. Dahan lang. Masyado mo na. Opo, parang ganun. Para siyang inaano niya rin mga virus, ganun.
Appreciate ko to.
You can hide the grid po. Try mo din i-hide grid. Para hindi siya masyadong distracting. Ipapalit ka. Pwede po siyang mag-run for hours. Basta lalagyan mo lang siya ng cellphone. I-infect mo lang siya ng info. Ano po yun? Pag white, ibig sabihin nun, nagiging alive na siya.
See?
Yun,
Happy yung ano ko, ha? Mukha siya talagang COVID.
try mo nga po volunteer.
Pwede rin baga.
Opo, doon po sa generation per second.
Gawa ako. Gandang simulation ito. Kasi pwede nyo pagkakitaan yun. Lalo na ngayon. Ingatan niyo yung mga code nyo, ha? Mga biglang maibenta yan, ha? Okay. So, okay na ako. Meron pa ba kayong ibang ipapakita?
Yun lang naman po.
Yun lang na. Okay.
Hindi, kasi balak po sana namin. Pwede po kasing naka-predefined na po yung pattern niya. Kasi may iba't ibang pattern po dyan sa Conway's Game of Life kapag na-search nyo. If nyo. Tapos, pero hindi na po namin nakayanan kasi ang hirap po position ng
next level. Sa finance. Okay, so yung tanong ko, again, tatlo yung sasagot. Ano yung favorite feature nyo dyan sa ginawa nyong game? Tapos, ano ang portion na nahirapan kayo at paano nyo sinolve? Ayan. Sige, mag-isipan nyo sino yung tatlo. So, dito naman tayo. First cell.
Hello po, ma'am. So, ako na lang po unang sasagot sa amin.
Yeah.
So, yung pinaka gusto ko pong feature niya is yung napapalitan po yung kulay. Kasi kapag nalawa ka na sa kulay na yun, pwede mo nang palitan. Kasi medyo masakit siya sa mata na panoorin for ilang minutes, gano'n. Tapos yung gusto ko rin pong feature is yung nazo-zoom out and nazo-zoom in yung tile. So, parang mas mapabilis yung pagdo-draw mo ng pattern. And ayun po. So, sa pinaka nahirapan po ako talaga sa pag-aaral po ng PyGame module. Kasi ang dami pong kayang tapos mas dito pa po ako natuto ng classes, object class kaysa sa OOP. Ngayon ko lang po na ngayon ko lang po na encounter imbes na sa OOP dito po sa modeling simulation. And then ayun po, paano ko po na-overcome ayun, nagbasa lang po ng documentation ng PyGame and nanood po ng tutorials po. And then po. Thank you.
Ako naman po, yung hello, ikaw na ba? Sige, ako na. Yung favorite feature yung kung saan ay uupi rin po, tsaka sa may pag-aaral ng
Tapos na. Okay. Sige, go,
yun po.
Yung mga nagsasalita. Si JR.
Ako po.
JR. Talk to the contact JR.
Yes po. Nahirapan po sa may OOP and then sa may sa may PyGame kasi di po talaga ako familiar. And paano po na-resolve? Nag-aral po. Yun lang.
Share na ulit ng code. Group 2. Share ng code.
Hello po. Ako po yung last na sasagot. So, siguro po yung favorite feature ko is yung logic mismo ng game where, ayun nga po, live cell with fewer than 2 live neighbors dies, and then pag more than 3, mamamatay din. And then kapag 2 or 3 siya, mabubuhay siya. Bakit ko siya naging favorite? Kasi po siguro pwede siyang maihalin tulad sa real life na in a way na kapag few population, medyo mahirap for that population to strive. Kapag naman din maraming population, which makes it overpopulated, nag-strive din and mahirap din to sustain their needs. Then kapag naman yung 2 or 3, ayun, nakakapagparami po yung mga tao, population. Siguro po sa nahirapan na part is yung flowchart since yung code itself is a bit long and complex. Na-resolve namin siya through simplifying it kasi po mas madali siyang ma-discuss pag ganun. Ayun po.
Na-appreciate ko yan, yung simulation nyo para siyang COVID, no? Meron kayong pwedeng mapaggamitan nyo. Lalo na pag sa research nyo, meron kayong sinasabi. I think yan yung kulang kahapon dun sa present ng 4th year na nung umupo ako sa defense. So medyo bitin yung din, wala silang simulation. Hindi masyadong na-appreciate ng mga teacher present. So, yun ang kulang sa kanila paano simulate. Uulit pa ulit sila sa January. No? So, nakita ko yung pwede dapat makita doon sa sinasabing cellular na app nila. No? Ang pangit kasi nung pinakita, hindi ko na-appreciate. Kaso gumagalaw talaga. Galing. Na-appreciate yung mga. Good job. Good job, good. Andali lang. Sandali ka lang, no? Kasi gusto kong makita yung pagkakabuo ng ginagawa niyo. Okay, good job, good job. That is group, kung saan yung ating listahan? Group 3. Ayan. Group 3, congratulations. Ayan, naaliw ako dun sa inyong
Thank you po, ma'am.
presentation. At nakita ko yung hindi ko nakita dun sa sa presentation ng fourth year ng CS yun ha. Ano, hindi sila nag-aral ng Python, hindi nila naayos yung ano. Anyway, nanchika pa si Ma'am Pei. Ayan. Okay, Group 6, mag-ready na. Congratulations again, Group 3. Ayan, so ready na yung Group 6. Habang nag-ready yung Group 6, tatapusin ko lang. Sige, go. Ayan, nakita ko na. Gusto kong makita yung concept ng ginagawa niya bago tayo. Para ma-decision ako ng maayos yung grade. Sige, Rochelle, sorry. Tuloy. So, kailangan magmamatch ito. Kailangan mabilis ang mata mo dito, no? Okay. Nakuha ko na yung concept. Sige, go. Tingnan ko kung bakit, paano mo, gano'ng katagal bago mo ma-pick up mo. So, nakakadaliwa ka na. Oh, good. Tatlo na. Teka lang. Total, nandiyan na rin lang yung code. Ito bang mga position nitong mga words, nababago ba to? Nara-randomize ba to? O hindi siya palaging naandun sa corner na yun? Okay. So nakuha ko na yung buong concept ng ano nyo. Alam niyo ang maganda dito, kung yan ay instead ng milk tea ay image mismo. Siguro yan yung magandang improvement niya. So yung milk tea, tapos nasa si kabilang milk tea, paglabas ay image ng milk tea. Maganda yun. Magandang dito. Tapos match. Hey, aba. Okay, maganda rin. Pero mas maganda kung yan ay image. Gamit kayo nung mga yung mga libraries ng image. Gumamit ka ng Tkinter, di ba? Nakita ko kanina yung Tkinter dun sa ano. Pero nasan yung ano? Wala. Hindi pa. Ito nga, mukhang wala pa. Color lang ng ano. Ayan. Sige. Appreciate ko naman yung effort nyo, kasi naman yan nagsisimula pa lang. Pero yung ano nyo kanina, yung match, ang kulay, Kala ko pagdating dito, ganun yung kulay, Na-impress ako dun sa sige, improvement yan later, later. Okay, good. Sige, dun tayo ngayon sa inyong favorite, yan sa inyong ginawa, favorite picture. At ano yung portion na nahirapan kayo, tapos paano nyo na-resolve, no? 3 tao sa inyo ang sasagot, no? Sige. So, at naandito na tayo. Group 6 na. Ano to?
Popula po.
Popula, kasi letter P itong tao. No? Ganda ng play up niya ng symbols, ha? Ganda. Okay. Okay, go.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are Group 6 and we are here to present our Python project. Have you ever wondered how much and how little our population grew over the years and how quickly is population growth in our country? Well, in our project, we aim to visualize and grow these numbers and the numbers that can potentially come. Today, our group will present to you the project we work on called Popula. So let's get started. For the next slide, Mr. Paulo de la Cruz will report on the project description and scope.
Popula is a simple system that predicts and models the possible future population of the Philippines in a given year. Based on the population data gathered from 1969 to 2021, this program shall show the previous data and predicted data of the year that the user picks in a chart form. Next. Our project scope is that we have a complete software that has the population and population growth rate data from 1969 to 2021, and uses this to generate user peak population growth prediction. What's the purpose or business need for this project? This project predicts and models the potential population growth based on Philippines' previous data. And who are the beneficiaries of this software? The NGOs who specialize in family planning, the Philippine government, and also some business strategies. Next topic will be discussed by
Schedule objectives. To be able to develop and implement a program that generates population growth prediction and models it alongside previous population data gathered using Python and its extensions within 2 weeks. Next slide. Technical objectives. To produce a working software that is able to model a prediction of the Philippine population using linear regression until the year 2040 based on the population growth data gathered from 1969 to 2001 using the following tools: Matplotlib, Pandas, SciPy, NumPy, Tinker, Time, and web browser. Next slide.
So our deliverables and internal deliverables, we have flowchart, system code, executable file, project manual, and logo. Along the way of our project, we must be able to produce these materials. Next, please. For external deliverables, there's the homepage with logo, information button where it contains what you do with the program, the selection window where you select whether you want to predict, whether you would want to see the predicted data for the next years, or the past data window where it'll graph out the past data that we've gathered from 1969 to 2021. And then there's the prediction window, there's a past data window, the next the year buttons where you click each year from 1969 to 2041, and then there's the generate plot button where it'll proceed to plot the data, and then there's the graph window where you'll see the graph. Then there's the try again window where it'll take you to your previous window if you want to do another simulation. And then lastly is the exit button where it'll terminate the program. Next, please.
Okay. Finally, Tapos din yung
factors. First, the objectives are accomplished in time. Also, the predictions are produced, give benefits to stakeholders, and the graphs are understandable. The data gathered are verified, and the implemented system is working.
So now, allow me to introduce our project team roles and their responsibilities. To start, in order to have an organized project flow and distribution of roles and schedules, I took a responsibility as a project manager. Also, I did a data scientist task, which is the data experimentation part or machine learning tool using linear regression to predict the data. And for the documentation of our project, we have Miss Charissa Peña and Miss Monica to conduct minutes document of our project flow and for creating and designing our brand and presentation. Miss Monica, together with Mr. Paulo de la Cruz, took the roles of a data analyst. As the main feature of our app is to predict the data, it is vital for data analyst's role to assist the data scientist in collecting, cleaning, and analyzing the data. Meanwhile, Mr. Lord Alan Uy is our system or program designer and our main program developer, while Miss Pauline Bautista was the one implemented the system he designed and also for our graphical user interface, in which Mr. Dexter also contributed as a visual programmer. And next slide, please. And for our implementation, the task or the activities is to produce a working system that models previous data and uses them to predict future population growth. And our procedures is first to conceptualize the flow chart or the system and identify the requirements of our project, and also as a data intensive project, we must gather data and find it with credibility and reliability. And before we implement the linear regression tool, we identify the R score of the data we have, and we design the GUI and develop the system. So we debug and dry run the system and then create a project manual. And for our project change control process method, we use the traditional software development lifecycle by waterfall method. And waterfall method is by completing each step of the software developer lifecycle before proceeding to the next step. And for our tools, we have Matplotlib for visualization and graphs. We have SciPy as a stats for to use linear regression, and we have pandas to manipulate or to clean the data and to inject the data from CSV file. We also use NumPy to manipulate the data frame, and then we also use TK Tinker to have the user-friendly graphic user interface. And for the time and web browser, the time module is to splash the screen to make it look like it loads. And then the web browser is to have an hyperlink info of our page. Next slide, please. And for our project schedule and milestones, for the project identification, December 9, each of our members suggests practical topics that can be done with a given time range. The population prediction growth rate won as the preference of the majority of the team. And for the project development, as I've said earlier, our methodology is SDLC waterfall method. We first analyze the requirement of the project and then design the system by our system designer. This part also where we add the feature of linear regression as the main feature of the app. And we proceed to the implementation and coding part after it is designed using flowchart. We also stand as quality analyst to ensure no errors can be found when we deploy it in the production. So next slide, please. Yes, go na.
So proceed po muna tayo sa code. Pauline.
So, ang code po ng buong program namin ay nakapag-loob lang sa isang Python file na nagagawa ng iba't ibang function na magdi-display ng bawat window na makikita niyo sa app namin. So, una po is in-import muna namin yung modules na ginamit. Enter for GUI, time para sa splash screen, matplotlib para sa pagplot, pandas para pag-open ng CSV file, SciPy para sa linear regression, para sa pag-forecast ng future population, NumPy, and web browser. So, una pong, pag in-open niyo po yung app namin, ang unang mag-a-appear ay yung splash screen dahil ito po yung pinakaunang pinload namin na function. So, sa splash screen po is, una is gumawa lang ng window, then niload yung image na ginamit doon, tapos nag-for loop para mag-appear na nag-loading siya, gamit yung script na to sa time module na mag-delay yung pag-execute ng loop every 1 second. Then after ma-execute yun is automatically automatically i-run na niya yung display first page kung saan gumamit ako ng exception handling kung saan i-destroy niya yung previous na window which is the slash window. After niya ma-destroy is pagpaproceed siya dito sa may final part kung saan gumawa ulit ng window, change yung size, position, and title, and yung icon. Tapos niload ulit yung mga pictures na ginamit sa window na to, tapos in-attach ulit sa window. Tapos dito, gumawa ng mga button kung saan pwede mamili si user. Ang mga button na nilagay namin doon is population predictor button, previous to current year, and yung information button. Yung information button po muna yung i-explain ko since yun ng maiksi. Information button na to is nakalink siya sa may command na display info page. Yung display info page po na to is nagalaman siya ng information about the data source namin. Dito sa may function na to is nag-exception handling ulit kung saan kinlose yung previous na window, then nag-create ng bagong window, nag-attach ulit ng background image, tapos di-display na yung link kung saan pwede mo siya i-click, tapos pag kinalik mo siya is mag-open yung link na yun sa web browser mo. Tapos sa window na to is meron din back button kung saan i-destroy niya yung current window, then babalik siya may previous na window. Sa susunod na button naman is yung population predictor button. Yung population predictor button na to is nakalink siya sa may display second page na function. Function naman po na to is ito yun. Nag-exception handling ulit kung saan dinisplay yung current page. Tapos, nag-proceed siya dito. Then, gumawa na pa ng bagong window, change ulit yung size and position, yung title, and yung icon. Tapos, niload ulit yung image, tapos in-attach sa may window. Tapos dito, gumawa ng variable kung saan mag-hold siya kung ano yung year na pipiliin users sa radio button. Itong display radio button na to is gumawa siya ng parang object na radio button kung saan ilalagay mo na lang kung ano yung text na gusto mo i-appear sa button na yun. Tapos saan position sa may window. Tapos itong function na to is ang ginawa dito is nag-for loop para yung radio button na ginawa na yun is i-display na lang siya for loop kung ilang column yung gusto mong gawin. Tapos after ma-execute ng line na to is expected na may button na radio button kung saan pwede mamili ng year. Tapos naglagay din kami ng generate plot button kung saan nakalink naman siya sa may display figure 1 window. Itong display figure window 1 is ginagawa niya is nag-generate siya ng plot kung saan generate niya yung plot gamit yung data sa CSV file na nakuha namin sa mga data source. Yung data galing sa CSV file is nilagay siya sa isang list para ma-plot siya. Tapos dito is nag-perform ng linear regression para ma-predict yung future population. Tapos yung i-return doon is i-convert siya into string para
ma-format yun. Since yung integer na type kasi is dire-diretso siya and wala siyang comma and mahirap intindihin pag masyadong mahaba. Kaya kinonvert siya into string para sa description na part. Dito po sa part na to is gumawa ng description para mas madaling maintindihan ng user yung plot na yun. Tapos dito is gumawa ng legend para mas madaling maintindihan yung mga meaning ng kulay sa plot namin. Tapos dito is gumawa ulit ng button, try again button, kung saan nakalink naman siya sa command try again. Then yung command try again na yun is, ang gagawin niya is i-destroy lang ulit yung current na window at babalik sa previous window. Tapos itong exit is basically i-close niya lahat ng window. So, ayun po yung mangyayari doon sa may population predictor button. Tapos yung next na button naman is yung previous to current year. Ang pinagkaiba lang po nila doon sa may previous na window is dito po sa may window na to is ang year. Mas madami pong year na ginawa. From 1969 to 2021. Tapos yung generate plot button po niya is nakalink siya sa may display figure window 2 kung saan yung kanina po is isang plot lang din-display niya. Dito naman sa window na to is dalawang plot na kung saan din-display niya yung previous population and yung mga growth rate. At tulad kanina na nag-load lang ulit ng CSV file, then nilagay siya sa list, tas dito walang pinreform na linear regression since yung dinidisplay lang namin yung nag-gather na data from data sources. Tapos, gumawa lang ulit ng description about sa plot, then legend para mas madaling maintindihan ng user, then naglagay ulit ng try again button, and exit button, katulad kanina. Yun lang.
Yan natin.
So yun, nakalimutan po namin i-present yung flowchart kanina. So ito po yung flowchart namin. Magi-start yung Popula sa pag-open ng app. Then after ma-open yung application, didiretso tayo sa main page. Sa main page, may tatlong features. Una, yung select information. Pangalawa, select year to current year. And pangatlo, select year predictor. So dito muna tayo sa select information. Kapag sinelect natin yung information, magkakaroon to ng output na display information kung saan nakalagay dun kung ano ba yung popular na app or saan kinuha yung mga resources namin. Ayan. Then select back button para makabalik tayo sa main page. Then sa pangalawang features naman is select year to current year. Then after nun, mapupunta tayo sa page kung saan pipili tayo ng mga years sa buttons. Then after nun, pag pinindot natin yung select show graph or select show plot, magkakaroon tayo ng dalawang output. Yung una is yung total number of population at pangalawa yung population growth ng taon na pinili natin. Then after nun, tatanungin tayo if try again. Pag try again, babalik tayo sa select year to current year na page. Kapag no, exit. Then sa pangatlong features naman, yung select year predictor, didiretso niya tayo sa input na select year from buttons katulad nung sa may select year to current year. Then after natin pumili ng taon, gagamit yung system namin na linear regression para ma-predict yung selected year. Then after nun, pag pinindot natin yung select show graph or show plot, magkakaroon tayo ng output nung total predicted population natin. Then tatanungin if try again. Pag yes, babalik tayo sa select year predictor. Pag no, exit. Then, yun po. Ito po yung application namin. Wait lang po. Ayan na po. Ayan. So, this is the popula. Then, katulad nga sinabi ko, kapag pinindot natin yung I, mapupunta tayo sa information tab. Nakalagay dito yung description about Popula, then yung mga data sources. Then try natin click yung mga data sources kung gumagana ba. Ayan, gumagana naman siya. So, naglagay na ako ng naka-open kasi matagal mag-open yung paggaling sa link kasi naglo-loading pa yung almost 500 pages. Then yung second link, ito siya. Ayan. Then third link, ito na. Then back. Punta na tayo sa my previous to current year. For example, pumili tayo ng taon na gusto natin malaman ano yung population by that year. For example, 2003. Then generate plot. Ayan. May kita yung population number by 2003. Ayan. May kita rin kung gaano siya dumadami. And yung sa right side na plot, ito naman yung growth rate. Yan. Sabi dito, the population of the Philippines in the year 2003 is 81 million. Yun. And the growth rate is 1.98. Then check natin sa graph if tama ba siya. Ayan. 8 dito. Then 2003 dito. Tama. Then dito naman sa kabila, growth rate by 2003 is 1.98. Tama. Ayan. Then check din natin if tama ba yung lumabas na output dito. May naka-Excel kami na yung laman niya is galing din dun sa mga data na pinakita ko kanina. Ayan, 2003, 81 million. So, ayan, kita natin na same lang sila. Then, let's try again. For example naman is 2016. Ayan.
May mga ano?
Ayan na po.
1970.
1970. Ito po, ma'am.
Tingnan natin yung population na 1970. 36,000. Kasi kung naaalala nyo nung kailan ba nag-start yung Marshall? 1970s yun, diba? Yung sa Marshall. Walang malaman kung marami talaga na tepos ng time na yun. Joke lang. Okay. So, nice. Ganda naman.
And
Pwede na ako magtanong. Naku-curious na ako sa mga itatanong.
Ito hindi pa tapos.
ma'am, ipunin mo lang, ma'am.
May prediction part pa po kami.
Kaya tapusin
Ay,
nyo.
ma'am. Tapos, kung makikita niyo pala dito, sa try again, yung year natin hanggang 2021 lang. Ang dahilan niyan is, sa data, wala kaming mahanap na 2002. Ang latest pa lang na nilalabas nila is 2021. Ayan. Then, back tayo. Then, yun po yung output nung previous to current year. Punta naman tayo sa my population predictor. Ayan. Ayan. Kayo po, ma'am, pili po kayo ng year na gusto nyong malaman. Ipe-predict natin.
Marami yung population.
Apo.
Yung 2024.
2024. Ayan. Generate plot. Ayan. The predicted population of the Philippines by year 2024 is 113 million. Ayan. Yung scatter points po, ito po yung mga data points or yung population by that year. Yung mga bilog-bilog na yan. Then yung red po, ito po yung regression line. Ito yung ginamit namin para malaman how close yung mga data points. Then para ma-predict din yung mga future years. Ayan po. Then yan.
How about yung So, 113 million. Yung 2023.
2023. 111 po.
So, 113. Nag-grow siya ng mga 2 million.
Opo.
2 million. So, ibig sabihin, yung data nyo, gusto ko maintindihan yung data. So, yung data ba ay meron ding, kasama yun sa, nyo? Yung
Ano po, ma'am? Kinuha po namin siya, yung mga future years, gamit yung mga data na 1969 to 2021.
Para ma-port yung
Opo. Ayan po. Then, try again. 2041 naman, ganyan. Ayan. Ito na yung pinasagad po namin. Actually, kaya pa po niya ng kahit 2,000, kahit 3,000 pa ganyan. Pero parang impossible na parang hindi pa dapat i-predict yung ganong taon. Ayan. Try again. Then last 2035, try again. Then exit. Yun lang po yung application namin na
Paano siya?
popular.
Upward.
Yes po.
Alam niyo maganda, ingatan niyo yan. So pagdating ng kung mga buhay pa tayo, compare natin sa actual data. Meron kasing mga projection na yung ating maraming bansa by 2040 mababawasan yung yung living space kasi i-occupy ng water. And pag sinabi mo yung ganon, that also means mababawasan yung population. So, ingatan nyo yan. Yun yung natanong ko na, hindi pa kayo natatapos, natanong ko na yung gusto kong itanong. Meron pa pala akong isang gustong itanong. Yung data ninyo, anong format niya? Naka-CSV?
Opo.
So, yung bang pinick up yung data, nilinis niyo pa? Or diretso pa?
Yes po, ma'am. Kasi ma'am, yung unang data po kasi namin, puro may kama. So, we use pandas po para malinis po, matanggal po yung
Usually,
yung
ganyan yung problema eh. Nung humawak ako ng database ng IBM, dun sa mga nila, sa lisensya nila ng SAP. Yan yung trinabaho namin eh, yung maglinis ng database. Kasi yung data nila ang gulo. Yun yung isang problema pagka masyadong malaki yung system. Kasi ang gamit nila SAP, yung production PO ng SAP PO. Pandamakmak kasi hindi lang milyones, bilyones na data. So gumamit kami ng application na panglinis. At yung kasi yung application ng SAP, yun, meron siyang sariling development, 'di ba, profile, SAP ABAP. Na mukha siyang Java, no? Yun yung itsura niya. So ganun kahirap, no? Yung logic kailangan mong i-apply, no? Kailangan mong mag-apply sa paglilinis. Bukod pa dun sa mano-mano. So meron ka ng ginamit na app para malinis, papasadahan mo pa para ng manually para alam mo na talagang lahat ng maayos, no? So nilinis niyo rin. Okay. So kung halimbawa makakakuha kayo ng ibang database at i-input niyo sila, at does it have to have the same yung parang, kasi meron kayong mga setup ng data doon, so you follow the same
Yes
kung
po.
nakasunod-sunod ng data.
Opo.
Kasi meron kayong setup doon na ganito kada So most likely pati yung kahit na nung data pumasok, kailangan nyo talagang linisin kasi may sinusunod na pagkakasunod-sunod doon sa plot nyo, no? Correct, tama ba?
po, ma'am. Ma'am, yung parang take in charge po dyan yung mga data analyst po. Kapag nagka-query po ng data, sila na din sa wrangling. Pero yun, pag prediction part, si DS po talaga.
Okay, nakita ko. Appreciated ko yung nyo ha, maganda. Apply yung ating modeling and simulation. Saka nag-ahead learning kayo ha. Natuwa naman ako. Yan. Good job.
Ay ma'am, additional ko lang po. Since yung data po namin na ginamit is nasa CSV file lang. For example, gusto natin po makuha yung mga population ng ibang bansa. Pwede rin po, basta same format po. Ganun.
Maglilinis pa rin talaga kayo kasi kada iba-iba yung nila. May mga data pa doon na yung mga naka-hidden. Siguro hindi pa naranasan yun, yung mga Excel na or CSV file na may mga naka-hidden, parang kailangan mong issue, no? Yung mga ganyan. Anyway, so that's it. Good job. I really appreciate your work, no? I would say na isa to sa pinaka-best na nakita ko, no? Okay, very informative. No?
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Good. Very good. Hindi ko na kayo tatanungin doon sa favorite ninyo kasi puro data yan, boring. Yung tanong ko ang mas exciting. No?
Ma'am, naka-ready po si Kim dun sa ganun question.
Okay na, hindi po, ma'am. Hindi. Okay na po kami.
Natin ng pagkakataon. Kasi
Wala na, okay na po, ma'am. Pero,
Joke lang.
features lang naman. Ma'am, okay na po.
Gusto ko marinig. Ayan. O sige, ano
Wala.
ang feature nyo sa dyan sa inyong app? At ano ba yung mga nahirapan kayo at ano naging resolution nyo? Ayan, sige, go.
Favorite feature namin, syempre ito po yung parang pinaka-asset namin, yung linear regression. Syempre ang challenge pa po dyan kasi sa pagko-collect ng data, hindi mo naman pwede basta-basta like i-model agad i-fit using linear regression kasi may pwedeng possible underfit pa siya, hindi mo siya mamamodel kasi sobrang scattered ng data. Pero dito naman so far yung na-gather namin na data naman po is linearly nag-i-increase. So best fit model niya, nagkaroon po siya kasi ng R-score sa Pearson correlation ng 0.98. So masasabi namin na sobrang accurate nung data namin, nung mga lumabas na predict doon. Pero syempre, may mga probability pa kung depende sa context, kung may nagkaroon ng gera or anong event sa mga year na future, ganyan. Tapos, ang isa pang favorite feature namin, yung graphical user interface namin, gawa ni yung GUI namin si Pauline kasi ang sobrang nagtutugma yung kulay, yung user interface, tapos yung branding ng namin, ng app po namin. Yun lang po.
Actually, maganda yung yung logo niya. Na-appreciate ko yung logo.
Yes din, pati po yung logo. Thank you po.
Sa akin, nahirapan.
Sa pagko-collect din po sa pagko-collect po ng data. Tapos yun nga po, yung paglilinis, tapos minsan hindi pa po compatible yung CSV file. Tapos hindi namin ma-model kasi nga po, yun nga po yung mga outliers din po dun sa nakalap naming data po. Tsaka sa syntax po ng linear regression using Cypher. Medyo math po kasi yung behind. Kaya di na rin po namin yung behind the scene process ng pag-model. Pero mathematical equation yun na parang inspired by y equals mx plus b.
Tsaka po ma'am sa nahirapan kami sa pag-iisip ng app name.
Opo, ma'am. Mga 2 araw po namin pinag-isipan yun. Tapos ma'am, dun din po sa data nagka-problem kami kasi medyo magkakaiba po yung itong site na to. Kaya nag-decide na lang po kami na sa DOH po yung kunin naming data.
Yung may mga gustong maging data scientist. Ayan. Dinaranasan nyo kung paano ang hirap ng data scientist. Ganon talaga. Kailangan magaling kayong maghanap ng solusyon. Ayun, nakasurvive naman kayo. Ganda nung ginawa ninyo. No? Very, very good. Ayan. Diba? Very, very good. Daming very na yan. Okay. Anybody? Meron pa? Again, I'm very happy. Tuwa ako dun sa presentation. No? Okay, good job, good job. Moving on tayo sa next presenter. Congratulations, no? Congratulations. Ay, bigyan natin ng reaction. Ayan, everyone, lagyan natin ng clap. Lagyan natin ng heart. Let's celebrate! Tada! Okay. Okay, good job, good job. Sige. Next na tayo. So that is group group 6. Next, group 5. Pang-apat, group 5.
Hello po. Ayan, ready na po. Ayan, good afternoon everyone.
I am Romalyn Ansi Bello, and one of the representative and also the group manager of Group 5, and we present to you Genetic Simulator. Genetic Simulator, there is nothing wrong to be one step ahead. To be presented by Romalyn Ansi Bello, Ashanti Vionil Bacani, Paul Anthony Puntanar, John Mar James Munar, John Paul Valentin, and lastly, Marlon Velasco. Next slide, please. Genetic Simulator. We have our project description. Genetic Simulator is a system that simulates the possibility of the inherited disease, blood types, also the gender of the offspring of the user that will use the system. This project uses a scientific algorithm to predict the sex and the possibility of inheriting the parent's disease and blood type to predict the percentage of accuracy that the program will be accurate. Next slide, please. The project scope. The simulator displays the possible genetics of a child, such as potential medical conditions, physical characteristics, and sex through the parent's bloodline and present illnesses. It also allows users to log into the program, complete their health profile, and view their child's genetic result. If the user decides to exit the program, they may sign out. Next slide, please. Also, our project have our mission, and it is to develop the state-of-the-art genetic simulator that incorporates the latest scientific research and technology for accessibility and ease of use for individuals and healthcare providers. Our goal is to help people to understand and predict the likelihood of inherited traits and medical conditions, and to provide them with the knowledge and tools they need to make informed decisions about their health and the health of their loved ones. Next. In the project scope, stakeholders or users, individuals, and families to make informed decisions about their health and well-being. It is also a good factor to consider in the family planning. Scientists and health workers may also utilize the program for further studies about genetic inheritance. Next, please. Our project objectives. First, scheduled objectives. Our team must be able to develop and implement a genetic simulator using the Python language within the given time period. Next. Our technical objectives, to provide a result with the precise and trusted outcomes of the percentage the programs will show, to allow users to predict their offspring's gender, medical condition, and blood type that may be inherited, to inform the users what they need to know and prepare for their offspring. Next, please. Our genetic simulator deliverables. First, our internal derivatives, the initial system code in .py format, testing and debugging the results, final system code in .py format, executable file, and our documentation. As you can see in our documentation, we have used several tools also to analyze what we are going to do and to give a satisfactory result from our program. As you can see, we portray a drawing first and also uses different different softwares to produce our program. So next. Our system logo, as you can see in our PowerPoint, from our PowerPoint presentation down to our app, you will see our logo like this, and our UI developer will explain why the logo comes up to this. Next, please. And for now, for someone who will explain our flow chart and give everyone a transparent why our app come to like this, we will call on Mr. Paul Anthony Fontanar.
Hello, audible po ba?
Loud and clear.
All right. Next slide, please. Ayan. Hello, I'm Paul Fontanar, and I will guide you through the flow of our program. I know that this looks chaotic and there is a lot of information if we view the flowchart like this. While coding, we decided to use different files and import them on the main file in order to create a less confusing and a cleaner code. As you can see here, similarly in the flowchart, we color-coded the figures according to the Python file they are in. As you can see here, the white figures are for the main file, the beige for the blood type file, and the purple for the disease file. In order for us to have a smooth discussion of the main flow, I must present you first the user-defined functions that will be called on the main file later on. These functions are located inside the blood type file and the disease file. Next slide, please. Let's discuss the blood type functions first. This is the blood type Python file. Here, it contains certain functions that will be called on the main file later on. These functions are as follows: the mblood type, fblood, and the bresult functions. Let's dive deeper into what these functions do, starting with mblood. Next slide, please. mblood basically takes input from the user and asks for the blood type of the mother. If the user fails to enter blood types within the range of A, B, AB, and O, the system will make the user input again. If the input is finally within the range, it will be stored in the mother type variable. Then the loop and mblood function will end. The same goes for fblood, but this function is for the father. Next slide, please. The bfinal function contains a state object that is stored in the variable blood type. We have learned how to use this feature on chapter 2. This state object represents the blood types and their corresponding percentage. Here, we initialized all of the blood types to be 0. The bfinal function contains 10 sub-functions. These sub-functions are responsible for changing the initial values of the blood types inside the state object. For example, in the first sub-function A and AConv, it changes the value of blood type A into 50 and blood type O into 50. Next slide, please. As we can see here, the As we can see here, the bfinal function contains several if and else if loops in order to determine which subfunction should the system use based on the input of the user. These are the 9 possible input combinations and the respective processes. Next slide, please. And these two are the remaining subfunctions. The bresult is a function that is used to plot or graph the results. This summarizes the functions and processes inside the blood type file. Next slide, please. Now let's head on to the disease file. Next slide, please. Yeah. Inside the file, the variables mn and fn is initialized. This file offers 8 different functions that again will be used on the main file later on. This is the DISM function. This function displays the different genetic disorders that can be inherited through family. Note that these are provided by the programmers. The user will be asked to enter the quantity of the disease that the mother have in the corresponding list. If none, the user shall type 0. We used loops in order to determine the values to append the arrays mother disease and M relative disease. If the user inputs 0 or 4, the program will not ask further questions. If the user inputs 1, 2, or 3, the program will ask the user if the mother has the disease on the list. Next slide, please. If yes, then no further questions. If no, the program will ask if the mother has a relative with the said disease. If she has, then the M relative disease array will be updated. If she doesn't, the program will continue to ask her if she or her relatives have the disease until the last item on the list. Next slide, please. The DISF functions is just like the DISM function. The only difference is that this function is for the father. This is the first part. Next slide, please. And this is the second part of the DISF function. Next slide, please. These are the subfunctions that are used on the previous functions we just discussed, the DISM and DISF. These subfunctions are used to append values to the variables that are made for the relatives of the mother and father. The function here on the bottom right is used to print that the offspring may or has a chance to inherit the disease because the if conditions are true. Next slide, please. This function is the last function in the disease file. The disr function is used to print the probability of the offspring inheriting the disease of the family based on the values inside the mn and fn variables. If either mn or fn is none, then the program will print that there is no information about the mother or the father's disease. If mn and fn is 4, then the program will output a string with the disease. If mn or fn is 1, 2, or 3, the program will enter a for loop. Next slide, please. Inside this for loop, different combinations of the values of mother disease and father disease will determine whether which value to append and also the string output. And if the values are 1 and 1, the function rel_r function will be called. Note that this function is a subfunction in the disease file which we have discussed earlier. After this loop, the results will be shown through a graph using the plt.bar and show function from the matplotlib. This summarizes the functions and subfunctions inside the disease file. Next slide, please. Ito na. Now that we have discussed the blood type and disease files, we can now go through the main flow of the program. It starts with the database function, which will ask the user to choose between login and exit. Should the user choose A, he will be redirected to the login function. If B, the user will be redirected to the exit function. And inputs other than those will be considered as invalid, and the user will be asked to enter a choice again until the input is correct. Let's go through the login function first. Next slide, please. We have set the username to admin and the password to 1234 for now. If the user enters these credentials correctly, the system will pass to the main function. Otherwise, the program will print wrong username or password, and the user will be asked to enter the username and password again. The exit function basically exits the system and ends the program. Next is the main function. Next slide, please. The main function will ask the user to choose from one of the choices presented: mother, father, results, and sign out. If the user inputs characters other than A, B, C, and D, login function will reset and start again until the user enters a valid input. Let's head into these four functions, starting with the mother function. Next slide, please. This function gets the name of the mother from the user, calls the mblood function from the blood type file, calls the dism function from the disease file, and gives the user two options. Either go back to the main menu, which will transport the user to the main function, or fill out the father info, which will call the father function. If the user enters an invalid input, they will be transported back to the main function. Next slide, please. The father function is basically just like the mother function, but the data is for the father. Next slide, please. Next is the result function. Inside this function, the user will be asked if both the mother and father have been filled in. If no, then the program will tell the user to fill out in the main menu, and then the main function will be called. If yes, this R and B result functions will be called, which will show the results, and the user will then be asked whether to go back to the main menu, which will call the main function, or go to sign out, which will call the database function. And next slide, please. And this summarizes the program flowchart of our program. Thank you for listening.
Next slide, please. For our project presentation, the client user requirements, anyone who wants to predict the possibility of the gender and possible inherited disease and blood type of their offspring can use the system. By downloading the system program, user can select certain inherited qualities and make predictions about the blood type, sex, and potential genetic hereditary disease of the offspring. Additionally, it helps us user explain how their distinctive offspring make them unique and promote a healthy lifestyle. Next slide, please. So, as our system requirements, we need Windows 64-bit and 8 GB RAM. Next, please. Our success factors, all the users, family, health workers, scientists, and clients of the genetic simulator are all satisfied. The objective of this program were accomplished as declared in the previous slide. Next, please. So for our implementation, the tasks or activities, the tasks produced by the system, design, development, and presentation. Our tools that we use, we have Visual Studio Code, our Qt Designer, Figma, and our exe file. Now, we proceed in our implementation of code. Without this, we cannot accomplish our application. So may we call on Mr. Janmar Munar to present our code.
Hello, good morning everyone. So disclaimer, this program is under development. The variables used are limited and controlled due to time restrictions. This version only provides mere predictions of possible outcomes based on the inputs of the user. This program is done but the group wants to widen the scope with different options for many possibilities. So this part of the presentation will be discussed briefly so that we can present the output as soon as possible. So without further ado, let's start. So I made 3 simple yet user-friendly Python files. One for the blood type, one for the diseases, and one for the main. Next slide po. So for the blood type, I assign variables as none like null and it will be overwrite after inputting the value. Ay, ano pala, balik pala ng slide. Sorry. Next, we declared a state and give 0 value to the variables. And we made a function that will change the value of every blood type variables. The result will print its percentage depending on the input. Now for the disease, we assign also variables as none, like null, and it will be overwrite after inputting a value. The program will ask for the parent's disease, which is answerable by yes or no. If no, the user will be asked if the relatives has history for that inherited disease. If the answer is yes, a value in a variable with array will be assigned with 0 and no will be assigned with 1. We use for loop to lessen the lines that will be used. And now, for the main, in main, there will be a database system where the user will be asked for a username and password. After that, the user will be directed to the main menu. After filling up the info, you can go to the results to see the outcome. So another disclaimer, this code is for our plan B, but due to the possibilities na nagawa namin siya, so we will present the output of our plan A later on. And now, let's proceed to Mr. Marlon Velasco.
Hello. Sorry. Okay. All right. I'm Marlon, and I will be discussing the user interface of the system. Let's begin by discussing the color palette. Next slide. All right. So in this palette, there are 4 different colors in this palette. First, blue-violet. Blue-violet is associated to intelligence, creativity, and uniqueness. This individual or unique project was made possible by the group's intelligence in having such creative minds. Next slide. Lavender indigo represents the tremendous effort or dedication that each member put into, from planning, programming, designing, to the execution of the program. Next. Steel pink represents sensitivity and romance. In this part, this is having the sense of care of the group with the system's purpose for the users, and helping them to predict the possibilities of the offspring's inherited blood type, illnesses, and physical characteristics. Next. Maximum blue purple. It symbolizes the sense of excitement and wonder for the future, just like the system's objective. Next. By combining all of these colors into a single palette, we can create mermaid colors, in which it has a strong connection to the system's theme and stands for life and fertility. The capacity to develop offspring with a variety of qualities and traits that define an individual and make them special and one of a kind in life. Additionally, it represents awareness and insight, since, as we are all known, mermaids have the capability to foresee the future, in the same manner that our system application is able to predict the probability that children would inherit certain traits and characteristics from their parents. Next. Now, what defines the characteristics of a child or an offspring? Of course, DNA. And for that reason, we incorporated the DNA shape or the double helix with the mermaid palette as the system's major logo. along with the system's main background to represent its colorful and impactful purpose for the others. Furthermore, as you can see there, we created the UI using darker colors in a dominant manner, or darker shades rather, sorry, like black and dark gray, to give it a more aesthetically pleasing feel and sort of sci-fi vibes. Toppingly, or more importantly, to contrast with the vibrant colors of the palette. That's it. Thank you.
So let us next with our implementation, part 3 of our implementation, the official app that will be presented by Mr. John Paul Valentin.
Thank you, Ms. Bello. Hello, everyone. Hello, ma'am. So here I am John Paul Valentin, and I'm about to present our final application. So disclaimer lang po, the program is under development and there are some variables used are limited and controlled due to the time restriction. These versions only provides mere predictions of possible outcomes based on the inputs of the user. So, pa-share screen po.
Go lang, B.
Ayan, so here is our final application. So, as you can see, bakit hindi namin siya nalagay yung image? May nakita kaming problem, ayaw mag-load ng image, but instead of alisin yung image, we decided to use alternative way para malagyan siya ng logo. And this one is an emoji. So, ayan, genetic simulator, there is nothing wrong to be one step ahead. So here is our login page. And here, magta-type po tayo ng mga binanggit na password and username kanina. So our username is admin. And pag naglagay po ng password, halimbawa mali po yung password, pag nag-login po tayo, mag-error po siya. So bale, our password is 1234. And then let's log. So here is our main page, and dito po sa taas makikita niyo po yung button. Here is navigation bar, which will show will pour you sa ibang page nung system namin, like health. Ito yung page ng health sa physical, ito yung page ng physical, and sa trade. Our trade is under construction. Like sabi ko nga po kanina, because of the time restriction, hindi po siya kaya namin. So this will be upgrade in our final presentation. So yung our goal today is to show you the simulation of the disease, kung paano natin siya ma-predict, and yung physical appearance. So, yung mga variables dito are limited, and because we need to consider then yung time namin. So, first, we have here sa health. So, makikita nyo po dito sa right side is yung result na lalabas after we put some data. So, here sa blood type ng mother, for example, we're going to choose B, and sa father, we're going to choose A. So, may possible, ito, lalabas dito yung possible result ng blood type based on sa mother and father nung children. So, we use random, nakapag-randomize kami dito. And yung formula na ginamit namin is parang yung Punnett square para and then randomize na lang namin yung result. So about naman sa disease, so makikita niyo po dyan, 4 lang po yung nilagay namin para may pakita lang po namin kung paano siya gumagana. So halimbawa sa mother may asthma siya, tapos sa father wala, and halimbawa sa mother may breast cancer siya, father naman wala, and halimbawa si father may diabetes, tapos si mother may diabetes, tapos si father may heart disease. So now, dito sa baba naman, itatanong tayo kung meron bang relatives na or two relatives na may same disease mentioned dito sa taas. And pag sinabi natin yes, ibig sabihin may chance, may possibility na maa-acquire niya din yung disease na yun. May possibility na yung children nitong mother and father is ma inherit na from the relative. So if we click yes and if we click no, then when we generate, so here is our result. Makikita natin dito kung ilang percent yung possibility na may inherit ng children yung disease na chinek natin dito kanina sa mother and sa health. So, yun nga, since we have blood type B and blood type AB from the father, yung possible blood type nito is nung bata, hindi siya accurate na ito na talaga yung possible. Parang pinipredict lang natin na ito yung magiging possible blood type ng bata. So, as you can see here, yung possible disease naglagay tayo 51% yung makukuha niya. So, yung sa diet, kasi siya, Punnett square. So, out of 100, 100%, yung mother lang po is nilagyan, check tayo natin ng breast cancer. So, may possibility na ma-acquire ng bata is 51.10% na disease. And here is our plot. Makikita niyo po dyan yung possibility ng So, once na binago naman natin siya, for example, dinilit natin to, then when we generate ulit, bago yung graph, makikita natin since we removed asthma, the breast cancer from the both mother and father, makikita natin na yun na yung chance na makukuha yung possibility na ma-inherit ng bata yung disease. So now let's move with our physical. So like what I've said kanina, hindi pa siya totally complete, but here is our example kung paano yung structures, kung paano siya namin kapaganahin. So, tulad ng mother and sa father kanina, we can also have the option here. Sa skin color ng mother, for example, here we have light, fair, medium, and deep. So, for example, we choose fair, and then here we choose medium. So, dito sa dalawang choices lang natin, pwedeng yung magiging possible na so hindi siya pwedeng maging light or deep yung maging possible result since si mother and father yung skin color nila is yun lang yung choices natin. And for example naman sa hair color, red and then to brown, and here sa eye color is green and then to blue. So once we generate the result, lalabas dito yung possible kung saan makukuha ng bata yung possible skin color. For example, the fair. Nakuha niya yun sa yung fair skin color niya, nakuha niya yun sa mother niya. And yung sa sa hair color, nakuha niya naman yun sa mother niya ulit. And then sa possible eye color niya, nakuha niya yun sa father niya. So, since hindi pa ito tapos, we decided na lagyan muna siya ng number, ng letters here, yung skin color. But our purpose po talaga niyan is lalabas din yung percent mismo kung ilan yung percent na mamanahin niya yung possibility na makukuha niya yung physical features na yan. So here's the traits, yung sabi ko po kanina, this is under development, kaya wala pa tayong result for that, but we are going to upgrade this. So yun lang.
Also, I want to add about dito sa program, sa app po na na-develop namin, and we are planning to continue this application onto our finals and improve every aspect that we can find, and also to give more satisfaction to the user of this application. Ano ng slide ulit, Ash?
Thank you, Roma. So, now dadako naman tayo sa project schedule and milestones. Ayan po. So actually, we began brainstorming for ideas last Thursday. Then through process of elimination, we were able to conclude that genetic simulator is the best and plausible simulator to work on. Nagpahinga lang muna kami sa weekends. Then dito na po nag-start yung diretsong project namin, ng project coding, identification, design. So, nag-start na rin talaga kami nung Monday about sa details and yun nga po yung project identification. While the others were working on how the program would look like and how it would function, yung iba naman gumagawa na po ng GUI, tsaka ito pong PPT. And nag-ano na po rin, parang fine-tune rin po kung ano po yung gusto naming mapakita sa simulator. Maraming gumagalaw and nakikita naman po na ginagawa namin lahat yung best namin for the group. Kahit maraming naging flaws and sudden errors or revisions, nagtutulungan naman po kami. Now, let me present to you the very hardworking and quick-witted members of Group 5. Group 5. Yan po yung team roles. Si Miss Belio Romalin Ann, ang aming project manager. Si Mix Kakani, Ashanti Vinel, the technical writer. Along with Mr. Munar Janmar bilang technical writer and main programmer namin. Mr. Velasco Marlon as our system analyst. Mr. Fontanar Paul Anthony bilang business analyst. All of us are our programmers. And Mr. Valentin John Paul bilang aming technical architect. Although meron po kaming sinundan po namin yung parang naging hierarchy po ng project team roles. Lahat naman nga po kami ay gumagalaw. So, yun nga po si Miss Bello po, siya po yung nag-lead, siya po talaga yung nag-organize po sa amin lahat kung ano po ang designated roles and responsibilities po namin. Si Mix Bacani po, siya po yung gumawa ng PPT and ng color scheme po. And Mr. Velasco, siya po yung gumawa ng UI design and yung logo po namin. Siya rin po yung nag-isip po kung ano po yung ano po yung relation po ng color scheme sa goal namin sa simulator na to. Si Mr. Fontanar, siya po yung gumawa po ng flowchart. And dahil po dun sa flowchart na yun, naging organized po yung code namin. Si Mr. Valentin, siya po yung nag-handle ng program. Siya rin po yung nag-handle po ng nagsama po ng code at saka ng mismong magiging UI. Although yun nga po may unting aayusin pa po pero siya rin po yung gagawa po na. Paabangan na lang po sa finals. And lastly, si Mr. Monar, ang aming main programmer. Siya po talaga yung nag-handle po ng general code po ng simulator. Ito po ang aming references. Dito po kami nag-base po ng sample simulators na pinagsama-sama lang po namin yung mga ideas na po yan sa isang program po. So, if there are any questions, please let us know. Thank you very much.
There's more to see. Mag-i-expect kami ha. There's more to see ha. Kasi marami pa siyang ano. Pero maganda yung ano nyo ha. Maganda yung concept niya. Sige. Wala muna akong masyadong matatanong kasi yung mga gusto kong itanong natin sa dalawang wala pa. Binigyan lang tayo na simulated na magiging result. But anyway. So let me reserve my big question dun sa final. Kasi di kumpleto yung yung data eh. So gusto ko sana pagka tinanong ko yung mula dun sa health sa hanggang nung kay trade. Tingnan ko kung siya. So, yun muna. So, anyway, dun tayo sa standard question natin. No? So, dun sa, ano ba yung paborito nyong features dun sa inyong ginawa? at bakit. And then, ano yung mga na-encounter niyong problem? Tapos, ano yung naging resolution? So, I need 3 from each group na sasagot dun sa tanong. Sige.
Hello, ma'am. May I be the first po na sumagot? Ayun po. Yung kanina po na sinabi niyo po na hindi pa po kumpleto yung program po namin, kumpleto na po siya actually. Pero po, since nasabi niyo po nung nag-present po kayo ng project na sinabi niyo po na pwede namin i-continue sa finals and dapat po talaga for now, ang objective lang po namin is to show the blood. As we can see naman po sa project description po namin, na ma-show po yung blood type and also the inherited disease na pwede po mamana ni offspring. And the traits is for our teaser to our finals. That's all po yung sa part na yon. And for the question niyo po, my favorite part po is yung part na nag-generate na po yung program namin. Actually, we really have a hard time para po mapagana yung generation na yun kasi po, as you can see, sabay-sabay po nag-generate yung lahat sa iisang sa kabila pong part, sa right side po ng aming application. And paano po namin siya nasolusyonan? By searching and searching and searching po day and night para po maano po namin yung error na yon. And as ano po naman po sa amin and nasolusyonan po namin as you can see po sa pinresent po namin ngayon. Yun po yung favorite part ko. And also yun na rin po yung naging solusyon namin sa error po namin na yun. Thank you po, ma'am.
Hello po, ma'am. So yung sa po, as the main programmer po, sa akin po yung yung database system po yung nagustuhan ko doon kasi nung po, wala po siyang error kahit magkamali po yung user. So bali mag-wrong input lang po siya and never po siya magkakaroon ng syntax error. So yun po yung maganda po doon sa aming sa aming ginawang file. Tapos sa difficulties naman po siguro sa for loop lang po every time po na mag-ask since doon po dumadami yung errors. But thanks to the flowchart naman po na ginawa ni Mr. Fontanar, na-organize naman po lahat. And one more thing po, doon po sa may sa may coding po na ginawa po namin, which is talagang naging difficulties po namin yon since nagkaroon po kami ng plan A and plan B, which is yung plan A po meron pong user interface and meron pong yung plan B naman po namin wala pong user interface. So bali talagang yun po yung naging difficulties po namin since pero naging possible naman po siya dahil sa cooperation po namin ni Mr. Valentin po at sa lahat po ng ng mga group mates po. Yun lang po.
Okay, good job. And one more?
Yung po, ako po yung sa for the last po. So for me po yung favorite part ko po doon na is easy to navigate lang siya, user friendly, like one click button pupunta na siya dun sa mismong sa page and one click sa generate mag-load na siya agad yung result. Hindi na siya required na mag-loading pa ng matagal bago ipakita yung. And for sa mahirap naman po, as a compiler po, since yung UI designer po namin and then si main programmer, kailangan ko po i-compile yung both files na ibibigay po nila sa akin para po mapagana ko. And yung pinakamahirap na part doon is kailangan kong i-adjust yung UI design and yung mga variables name nun doon sa mismong sa code para mag-match siya and mag-show siya doon sa mag-show yung window. At yung isa pa pong difficulties na nahirapan po kami is yung image nga po. Hindi namin siya napakita since nahirapan kami kung paano i-load yung image. Actually nalalagay namin yung image pero hindi na siya nagpapakita pag nirun na namin siya. So ang nagawa ko po doon para yung alternative way na ginawa ko doon po is yun nga po nilagyan ko ng emoji as our part po ng image. Yun lang po.
At dahil dyan, ayan, congrats. Congrats. Diba? Yung ating mga hirap, mas lalong maganda yan pag So since may idinagdag kayo, ibig sabihin dapat tapos na kayo. Dahil gusto niyo mag-extend, maganda nga na yan. Magandang mga panukalay, no? And, ayan, bigyan natin sila ng reaction. Ayan, everyone, sama-sama tayo. Maglagay kayo ng reaction dun sa gawa nila. Tada! Okay. Salamat ng
Hello
marami.
po, ma'am.
Support talaga sila. No? Good job,
Hello
good
po,
job.
ma'am.
Yes.
As a last picture po, pati po yung PPT namin, Miss Ash, can you show yung first slide? And pag pinindot nyo po yung logo po namin, magdediretso po siya kaagad dun sa file. Sa pwede nyo na po agad i-download yung mga ano po namin, yung mga exe file. Also, every file that we use from this application is there na rin po. Pag pinindot nyo po yung logo po namin, ipapakita po ng aming nag-share screen, si Miss Ash. Ayan po. As you can see po, pag pinindot po natin siya,
Naka-direct dun sa drive.
yes po, magdadirect po siya sa drive. Hindi ata nakikita yung entire screen.
Hindi, nakita ko kanina. Ayan,
ayan po. Pero ayan po. Ayan po siya. Yun nandito po sa folders and ayan po. Mag-diretso na po siya dyan.
I guess, for presentation.
Yes po. That's all po, ma'am. Thank you so much po.
Thank you. Congratulations, no? So there's more to see in the finals. In 2024, diba? Hindi, 2023 pala. Masyado namang maaga si ma'am. Masyadong future. Ayan. Okay, thank you. Thank you, group 5. Tama ba? Group 5. Kababalikan ko lang. Tama, group 5. No? Okay, congratulations, group 5. Ayan. Well done. Ayan. So next, si group 4 naman. Group 4, mag-ready ka na?
Hello? Rinig po ba ako?
Yes.
So ayun, good afternoon. As Group 4, we will now be presenting our project called Dampy or Dampay, but I prefer Dampy. So next slide, please. So this here represents our game's title screen. So please hit start. Now, for our project scope, so our work to be accomplished is to develop Dampy, a fully fledged video game for desktop computers made for entertainment and numeracy exercise. So it is inspired by the conventional Damat game, although integrated in modern. Actually, hintayin ko na lang si ma'am. So dito na po tayo sa project scope. So our work to be accomplished po is to develop Dampy, a fully fledged video game for desktop computers made for entertainment and numeracy exercises. It is inspired by the conventional Damat game, although integrated in modern and digital technology, making it convenient and easily accessible at any time of the day. So on the right is our title screen po, showing our game. So next slide, please. So our project's purpose is to provide entertainment for users by engaging them into a two-player game of combined strategy and mathematical prowess. The application can also serve as a learning material for students who want to enhance their grasp of the 4 fundamental operations of integers. That's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So next slide, please. So our stakeholders and users, although the game has a wide spectrum of potential users, it is primarily intended to those who fancy simple board games and mathematics, to those who want to hone their mathematical skills, and to people who wants to play a quick yet competitive virtual board game with their friends. So kahit sino pwedeng maglaro, basically. So next slide, please. So for our project's objectives, our scheduled objective is to be able to fully develop a working and playable DAMAT video game within our instructors given time frame. Our technical objectives includes 4 items: to implement the original DAMAT rules to DAMPI, to finish developing DAMPI with no bugs and errors, to provide a built executable file of DAMPI, and to allow 2 players to compete with each other seamlessly and simultaneously in DAMPI. So next slide, please. So our project aims to deliver the following. Internal deliverables are the initial system code in .py format, assets used for the program, including logos, image, audio, and music files, testing and debugging results in the form of chip movement testing, may kita natin mamaya. Final system code in .py format, Visual Studio Workspace folder, documentation, and flowchart. For our external deliverables, ito yung mga i-deliver namin sa user. So it's the executable file that when opened runs DAMPI, the game, a playable video game inspired by DAMAT. Various board themes the user can select to their liking. Movable pieces, the user can move their pieces basically on both sides, red and blue. Capture enemy pieces, of course, the core game mechanic of the DAMAT game, by jumping over the enemy pieces. The fulfillment by achieving the winning condition of the game. So next slide, please. So in order to consider this project a success, the following statements must be satisfied. Number 1, the project is finished according to the given schedule. Number 2, the technical objectives are satisfied and are met on time. 3, the game is fully developed, working as intended, and implements the rules of the original DAMAT game. Number 4, the software is working properly without the occurrence of any bugs and errors. And number 5, the end users are satisfied after having played the game. Next slide, please. In order to utilize the full functionality of DAMPI, the following requirements must be met. Number 1, we need 2 players willing to compete with each other. And number 2, a working desktop computer on the Windows operating system with at least an octa-core CPU Ryzen 9 7950X or an Intel Core i9 3900K with 32 gigs of RAM, DirectX 11 with at least 8 gigs of VRAM, like AMD RX 6900 XT, NVIDIA RTX 3090, and 40 gigs of hard drive space, and at least 100 Mbps internet connection. So next slide, please. So for our project implementation, we need to do the following tasks and activities. Number 1, we need to accomplish our planning. Number 2, the development of a working game prototype. Number 3, implementation of the game functionalities. These include displaying of the 8x8 board with symbols, the mathematical symbols, projection of pieces to the board, the stick movement of normal and king pieces, capturing single and chain of enemy pieces, piece promotion to king piece, scoring and calculations, and the winning conditions. Number 4, testing and debugging, bug fixing, asset creation, game polishing, production of the documentation, and building of the executable file. Next slide, please. Flowchart. So for our flowchart, we will be having Gabino to discuss it. So Gabino, please do.
Okay, so I will be discussing the flow chart. Wait, where may I share screen? Screen. Can everybody see my screen po?
Yes, we can.
Yung flow chart, since di ko nakita yung
nakikita.
Okay, thank you. So this flow chart will provide the flow of the algorithm, which at the flow of the game, in a general form. So this is not a flowchart that represents the flow of the code, but mostly how the game will be played. So first, it will be started with the main menu, and we have the two options to start, which is the start game and the options. Uh, in starting the game, the first here we will see that the first turn will be red, but in the code it is there will be a coin toss which will lead to who will be the first turn, red or blue. So before starting the game, we can go to the pause menu and see different options which we can press. When we resume the game, we will go back to where the game will the games the game stopped and restart the restart option will reset the game and make a new game. In the options, it will go to the options panel and go to the teams where we can change the theme of the board to different colors that we have made. And lastly is the quit game, and this will bring back the user to the main menu. To the flow of the game, there will be decision making flow which will be asked, are there any pieces you can capture? So if yes, the piece will be captured and it will remove the piece and calculate the score. Then it will ask the user if there are any pieces remaining in your opponent. If yes, it will go back here in the question, are there any pieces you can capture? If there is no more piece remaining, the game ends. And this will lead to the calculation of the score and show who has the higher score. If the score will be if red has the higher score, then red wins, and vice versa to the blue. Then it will lead to the game reset and ask the user if they are willing to play again. If no, it will go back to the main menu. And if yes, it will go back to the start game and start another game. If there are no piece captured, it will ask the user if there's a piece previously captured. If yes, the turn will change to either red or blue. If no, it will ask the user if there's any piece can be moved to an empty slot. If no, it will redirect to the end of the game and show the who has the higher score. And if yes, you can move the piece and change turn. And that's how the game flow and plays until there is no more piece left to move. So I'll be passing the presentation.
Thank you for that, Gavino. So, resuming our presentation now. Next slide, please. For our methodology or procedure, we have used the PRINCE2 methodology method. So it stands for Projects in Controlled Environments, which is a project management technology that emphasizes organization and control. So ginamit namin tong methodology na to since it is flexible, tapos the project aspects are clearly defined, meaning that we can break it into smaller parts and then assign that parts into our different team members. Next slide, please. So since Damat is not really known game, so there might be people here who doesn't know how to play Damat. So pasadahan natin kung paano ba siya laruan. And ituturo sa atin yan ni Andy. So please.
So yan, narinig po ba?
Rinig po.
So, ayun. Familiar ba tayo lahat sa dama or sa kahit damat? Ikaw po, ma'am, familiar ka po?
Tama.
Opo.
Ano yun, yung tapatan lang ba yan?
Yes, ma'am. Kainan lang po.
Ah.
Pero anyway, kung hindi po familiar yung lahat, here is a quick guide on how to play dama po. So, damat. Damat is a math board game coined from a word dama, a Filipino checker game and mathematics. It was invented by Jesus Huenda, a high school teacher from Sorsogon, Philippines. So, itong damat, para lang siyang dama. Pero kasi yung main goal sa damat is makakuha ng pinakamataas na points. And i-discuss natin mamaya kung paano nga ba mag-accumulate ng points. So, ito muna yung mga pieces o chips na gagamitin natin sa laro. Kung mapapansin nyo, may mga negative and positive number together with the zero. Magagamit natin itong mga numbers na to mamaya sa scoring. Tapos, ito naman po yung board, parang checker, parang sa chess lang. Pero yung pinagkaiba lang, may mga math operations sa white tiles. So, paano nga ba laruin yung damat? Siyempre, mag-start muna yung laro sa pagtotos ng point kung sino nga ba yung mauuna. Pero sa code namin, ginawa na lang namin na laging red yung mauuna. So, a player is not allowed to make a pass and two players take turns in moving a piece. The game's duration can either be endless or timed, but each player has 60 seconds to execute a move. So, bale, bawal ka mag-pass. And kung wala ka ng move, lang pwedeng valid move, mag-e-end yung game, tapos yung mga natirang chips ay maladagdag sa points mo. So, bale, ito yung board natin. Ito yung board together ng chips. So, players should make moves in a forward direction except when taking a chip or if a chip is already in dama. So, bale, itong movements ng mga chip na to is diagonally forward lang. Kunyari, itong -1, yung movement na lang is dito sa 4-3 at saka sa 4-6. One tile lang per move. Unless kung dama ka na or kung kakain ka. So, this indoor board game has 4 operation symbols. Hindi ko makita. In taking the opponent's chip, the takers... Wait lang po, ma'am. Bakit di ka? Ayun, ulit. This indoor board game has 4 operation symbols of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. In taking the opponent's chip, the taker's chip jumps over the taken chip and uses any of the 4 operation symbols to earn points depending on where the piece lands. So bale, kunyari itong 6 na to, kakainin niya tong 4. Diba? So bale dito siya mapupunta. And yung magiging points niya ay, so bale magiging 6 plus 4, kaya magiging 10. Ganun lang yung yung pagkain. Kada kain mo, maladagdagan or mababawasan yung points mo. So, a chip is declared dama when it stops in the following squares of the opposing player. 1, 0, 3, 0, 5, 0, 7, 0. Likewise, a chip of the opposing player is declared dama when it stops in the following squares 0, 7, 2, 7, 4, 7, o 6, 7. So, bale, magiging dama lang yung chip mo kapag yung chip na yun is nakapunta sa other side ng board. And alam naman natin na yung dama, medyo OP siya. Kapag naging dama lang chip mo, pwede siyang tumira kahit malayo, pwede siyang lumapag kahit saang square, basta sa likod ng kakainin niya. So kunyari, isipin na lang natin na dama tong 6. Pagkakainin niya tong 4, pwede siyang mag-land dito or dito. Tapos yung points niya, madodoble. So kunyari, nag-land itong 6 plus 4, nag-land siya dito, so bali magiging 10. Times 2, yung points niya magiging 20. Pero kung dito naman, kung dito siya gusto niya mag-land, 6 minus 4 is 2, times 2, 4 lang yung magiging points niya. So next. The points are earned depending on the corresponding difference, sum, product, or quotient, and the numbers on the chip. So kagaya nga lang sabi ko, makakakuha tayo ng points sa kada move natin. It's either mababawasan or madadagdagan. The game ends either after the 20-minute game period or when the player has no more chips to move or when an opponent chips is cornered. Kagaya nga ng sabi ko rin kanina, kapag wala ng moves yung player, mag-e-end yung game tapos i-add yung mga natirang chips sa points niya. The player's remaining chips are added to their respective scores, and if the chip is dama, then the score is also doubled. So bali kapag may dama ka pa, tapos wala ka ng moves, maladagdag yung score mo sa kung anumang dama meron ka. Kunyari may negative 11 ka, so bali madadoble yon, kaya magiging negative 22. Bali minus 22 yon sa points mo. So the player with a greater accumulated total score becomes the winner of the game. So kung sino man may pinakamataas na score sa pagkatapos ng game ay siyang mananalo. So ayun lang po.
Hello. So for our project presentation, Ken will be presenting our application. So Ken, please do.
Hello, kita na?
Kita na.
Yes. Hello, good afternoon. I am the lead programmer of our group and explain ko lang briefly how our game works. Marami kaming files kasi marami kaming ginawang mga modules na exclusive lang sa game namin para mas maging organized din tsaka hindi cluttered sa buong main file lang. Wait, pakita ko na lang yung app para sabay ko na. Wait, balik lang dito sa code. Nag-import kami ng Pygame, Sys, and Random. Tapos ito naman yung mga modules na ginawa namin exclusively para sa game namin. Tapos balik dito. Ayun, in a game, there is always a loop. Kasi nag-check siya ng input sa user constantly. And as far as I know, at least sa Pygame, yung FPS is also how many times the game will loop in a second. And let's say 60 FPS, which is what the FPS of our game is. This means maglo-loop siya. Wait. Wait lang po. Ulitin ko lang. Wala palang audio.
May sound ba yun?
Yes po, ma'am. Ayan. Saan ba ako? Ayan. As far as I know, at least sa Pygame, yung FPS is also how many times the game will loop in a second. And let's say 60 FPS, which is what the FPS of our game is. This means maglo-loop siya 60 times per second. And since every loop, mag-check siya ng input ng user, this also means na 60 times siya mag-check ng input ng user every second. And sa main menu namin, ay sa main function namin, file, nakapaloob dito yung animation classes. Nakapaloob din dito yung constants, yung functions, which, wait, nalakas ng sound. Nakapaloob din dito yung functions, which includes yung ito, main menu, pause, start game, options, game ends. So ito lang. Ito yung main menu, tapos ito naman yung magiging options namin. Tapos ito yung start game. Tapos ito naman yung pause. Sa main menu, ito yung unang magra-run right after na binuksan yung app. Pero explain ko lang muna saglit yung itong animation namin. How does this animation work? Tulad sabi ko kanina, the game is on loop since 60 FPS ngayon game namin. Then gumawa lang kami ng sequence of images that would be enough para magmukhang smooth yung pagpalit ng images namin. Basically, sa main menu na to, 60 times kami nagpapalit ng images per second. And meron din kaming mga iba pang animation tulad na itong transitions. And then itong ang spinning chip.
For the classes naman na ginawa namin, itong buttons, kung napapansin nyo, hindi sila pare-parehas. May image dito, tapos ito naman return, ito start. Tapos ito return, tapos ito resume, start option, quit game. Kasi ano, yung instantiation ng ano namin, ng buttons, pwede kami magpasa ng height, width, text or images, or tsaka yung font size. Pwede rin yung function na i-call niya once na kinlik natin yung button. Tulad nito sa main menu, itong start game, naka-integrate na dito yung start game function, which is ito. Wait na ba ako na? Ito. Tapos kapag may ito, ito na yung tatawag niyang function and dito tayo mapupunta. Tapos next naman sa team selections, sa options, wala pa rin ba audio?
Merong
And
audio, meron.
Dito sa team selections, may ginawa akong 2 classes dito. Wait lang, ito pakita ko lang yan. Ito yung ginawa akong dalawang class, teams list, tsaka yung teams. Sa teams, ito yung individual board teams. Tapos, yung teams list naman, ito yung list ng buong team para manipulate yung buong list. Para man-navigate din ng user yung kung anong gusto niya piliin. Then, kapag nag-click ako dito or nag-arrow keys ako, pwede siyang man-navigate. Ayan. Tapos, kapag nag-click naman ako and enter, mapipili na yung theme na yun at magre-reflect na siya dun sa game namin. Sa game na ano. Ayan, same lang din dito kapag gumamit ka na ito. Then resume. Ayan. Ano pa ba? Dito naman sa board, itong board piece, scoreboard, tsaka itong board piece tsaka scoreboard. Classes din siya na ginawa namin for this game. And, wait, palasan ko lang. Ayun na. Pero gamitin namin. And ito sa game na kapag nito na kami, this game is constantly getting the position of our mouse. Bale kung saan mo ito lagay. Wait lang ko lang. And bale kung nasan yung position ng mouse mo, kinukuha yun ng game. And then kapag nag-click ka, doon lang niya i-check if it is a valid piece. Since first turn namin is red, i-check niya if ang una kong kinlik is a red piece. Kapag blue, walang lalabas. And kung narinig niyo rin yung invalid sound. So, kapag red naman, doon na siya lalabas yung mga valid scores niya, valid moves. And then kapag na-select mo na siya and mag-show ni valid moves, and kapag nag-click ka naman ng hindi valid moves, mawawala rin yung valid moves niya. Tapos, ano pa bang explain? And ito sa resume, naka-integrate dito yung babalik ka lang sa start game na to. Tapos restart, mag-reset lang yung game. Babalik dito. And then, options, tuloy nga kanina. Quit game. Mag-restart yung game. Tapos babalik siya sa main menu. Wala kasing sound. So, pakita ko lang din yung winning, namin. Kapag lang may winner na. Since gumawa na kami ng cheat codes para mas mabilis naming madebug yung program namin. Yan. And for the more in-depth explanation ng mechanics namin, here's our project manager Gian to explain the mechanics.
So ipapaliwanag ko ngayon kung paano ba ang algorithm sa pag-move ng chips. So, mag-share screen lang ako. So dito sa function na to, may nagko-call dito sa game. So, get valid moves. So, as the name suggests, kinukuha niya yung valid moves ng piece na ipapasa natin, which is a class in itself. So, una, i-reset natin yung moves since pwede tayong mag-click sa lahat ng chips. Dapat kada click natin, magre-reset mo na yung moves para hindi sila mag-move lahat. Then, nag-set lang tayo ng mga directional variables dito. Temporary lang yan. Then, temporary variables. Then, we assign the row ng piece sa row na variable para gagamitin natin yung mga yan as parameters dito sa functions na to. So, traverse left, basically, i-check niya yung top left nung piece. Since checkers to, diagonally, pwede lang mag-move yung piece diagonally. So, i-check niya yung top left and top right. So, Itong dalawang function na to, basically, same contents lang sila, ang may iba lang is direction. So itong mga parameters na to, ang ibig sabihin nito is direction vertically, which is this is up, and then this is how many rows, kung ilan yung makikita ng piece. Since king ito, makakakita siya hanggang sa 0 coordinate, meaning sa pinakataas. Tapos ito yung direction ng piece, then yung color, anong direction, top left ba or top right, king ba yung piece, or end, kung nakapag-skip na ba yung piece. So tingnan natin yung traverse function, kung ano bang meron doon. So same thing, i-reset natin yung moves. Magse-set tayo ng temporary variable na ano ba yung pwede natin i-capture na piece kung meron. Then counter kung ilang ba yung piece na ma-check natin. Kasi kung dalawang magkatabing piece sa diagonal spot, hindi natin pwedeng i-capture yon. Kung enemy piece doon dalawang to, bawal mag-capture dyan kasi magkatabi sila. So kung nakikita nyo man yung dinodrawing ko kanina. Next, meron tayong for loop. Itong for loop na to, magche-check siya hanggang sa dulo ng board. So if na-reach niya na yung dulo ng board, magbe-break na yung for loop. Then a-assign natin yung chinek nating spot kung sino ba yung nandun. May piece ba doon? Wala bang piece doon? Kung may piece doon, anong kulay siya? Ganon. Tapos dito, i-check natin kung empty ba yung spot. Kung may piece ba sa spot na yon. Kung yung piece sa spot na yon kakulay natin, alis lang kasi wala tayong pwedeng gawin. Pero kung ibang kulay yon, pwede nating capturein yon. Bibilangin natin siya, dadagdag natin siya sa counter. I-assign natin yung piece in current spot na yon as pwede nating makapture. Then magbe-break yung loop. Dadagdag tayo ng iteration sa right na variable since mag-check. Ang laki. Nakikita ba yung dinodrawing ko?
Kita.
Okay. So since diagonal yung moves natin, i-iterate natin yung right, every time na maglulup tayo. So diagonal lang yung magiging direction niya palagi. So next, meron pa tayo dito. Medyo confusing siya ipaliwanag. Pero mas mag-make sense yan kapag pinakita ko na sa game. So run ko din yung game. So meron sa loob ng if statement, kung may na-detect niyang empty yung spot na yun, naklik ko ba? Hindi ko ata naklik. Kung may Kung may na-capture na yung piece na yon, depende kung king siya or normal piece lang. Dalawa na na-open. Depende kung king siya or normal piece. Dito ma-determine kung makikita ba siya sa likod ng piece. Kasi kapag king piece, pwede siya mag-move sa likod ng enemy piece and tiles hanggang sa edge ng board. So ito namang block of code na to, chine-check niya yung pabalik na movement since normally ang chips is makakapag-move lang forward. Pero in case na may enemy chip sa likuran nila sa backwards direction, pwede nating i-capture 'yon. Then eto i-check niya kung pwede pa ba tayo gumalaw after natin mag-capture. Kung yung enemy piece natin dalawa magbe-break. Tapos ito i-store niya lang yung piece na pwede nating i-capture or yung spot na pwede nating paglandingan sa moves. Tapos i-return nito sa main function para ma-execute ng game. Bale, ayun lang. So, kung mapapansin nyo, kapag normal piece, yung red, ang home niya is sa baba, di ba? So, allowed lang siya mag-move forward. Pero kung blue piece naman, allowed lang siya mag-move pababa. Kung may makakain na piece, pwede niyang kainin yun. Pwede din pabalik. Same goes sa red. Pag king piece naman, pwede siyang mag-move indefinitely sa hanggang maubos yung board. Pwede rin siyang kumain ng piece na nasa malayo. Pwede rin siyang mag-chain capture. Hindi niya maka-capture tong piece na to. Ayan, kahit malayo yung red piece na to, pwede niyang capture since king piece siya. Tapos pwede tayong mag-chain capture. So, pag-arrange ako ng piece na paganto, pwede niyang capturein yung lahat. If mauubos ko, baka hindi ko naubos. Ayan. So, ayun lang sa movement ng pieces. So, balik tayo sa presentation natin. Andy?
Parang Chinese checkers.
Siguro nga po. Opo. So, next slide please. So, ang tools and technology na ginamit namin is medyo marami siya. So, bibilisan ko lang. So, Microsoft Visual Studio Code, VS Code. Ito yung pinaka main integrated development environment na ginamit namin para mag-code. Then, of course, gumamit kami ng Python alongside the libraries Pygame, CS Random, saka Operator. Next slide, please. Gumamit din kami ng GitHub Desktop para madaling mag-share ng code sa iba naming members. So, gumamit din kami ng art software, various, Photoshop, Illustrator, Paint Tool, Canva, and Blender. Next slide, please. Then, para sa music naman, ang nag-provide ng music namin is si John Paul Beltran. Salamat sa pag-provide ng music para sa game namin. I believe gumamit siya ng Ableton Live para gumawa ng music. Then, gumamit din kami ng Audacity para sa pag-produce ng mga sound effects. Yung naririnig nyo pag kumain yung piece. Then, para sa project change control process ay gumamit kami ng Prince2 still since flexible yung Prince2 na yun. Pag may nagbago sa project namin, since part by part siya, madali lang namin ayusin. Next slide, please. So, our project team roles and responsibilities. So, ito po yung mga members namin. So, sa project manager is si Bon Consejo Gian po. Siya po yung nag-coordinate kino-coordinate niya po everyone. Then, meron po tayong dalawang technical writers. Isa po si Marsarki Andy at si Famoso Niña. In charge po sila sa pag-produce ng mga technical writings ng aming project. Then, yung lead programmer po namin is si Kenneth Belaño po. Siya po yung gumawa ng game and most of the code po ay siya yung nag-develop. Then meron po tayong technical architect si Bien Gabino. Siya po yung nag-provide ng flowchart at yung magiging flow ng game namin. Then si Russell Malabanan, our system analyst, siya po yung nag-e-ensure na working yung game namin and is free from bugs and errors. So next slide please. So project milestones. Naisip na namin tong damat na to way back November 18 pa lang. Yung nasabi niyo ma'am na gagawa po kami ng application. Then nagsimula lang po kami mag-design nung November 10 which is Saturday after po ng discussion ng project last week. Then nag-start po kami mag-develop ng project in December 11 which is I believe is Sunday. Yep. Then presentation which is today December 16. Next slide please. So acknowledgement, we as a group would like to acknowledgement each member of our team. Also, we would like to extend our thanks to John Paul Beltran for providing our program with 2 musical scores. So ayan po yung pangalan ng tracks niya, X and Y. We also want to express our gratitude to Tim. Diyan po kami nag-base ng checkers, pero ang dami po naming binago since checkers po is different from Dama and Damat. Pero salamat po at nag-provide siya ng starting point para sa amin. Then lastly, we would like to thank the developers of the software applications na ginamit namin. Next slide please. So ito po yung mga reference na ginamit namin kung interested po kayo. So next slide please. Then question and answer po. So same questions lang po, di ba ma'am?
Right.
Ma'am?
Game of checkers yung ano na. Alright. Sige. Doon sa ginawa ninyo, I need three from your group who will answer the question.
Sige. Siguro ako na po mag-start. So ang
sa app na feature, bakit, and then ano ba yung part doon sa program or task or dito sa project na nahirapan kayo, At ano yung naging resolution nyo sa inyong nahirapang portion, no? Sige, go.
Sige po ma'am, start po ako. Pinaka nagustuhan ko po dun sa game, bukod po sa overall development ng game and yung game itself, is yung falling chips po na nahuhulog. Since first time ko po gumawa nun, ginawa ko po siya sa Blender, which is 3D po yung chips na yon. Then, in-export ko po siya as PNG sequence para po ma-animate. So, yung falling chips po na yon and yung nakikita po sa pause menu, ang nakakatuwa lang po kasi ang cute niya tignan, umiikot po siya. Then, na-challenge po ako sa part na pag-code nung movement ng chips. Since nabanggit ko po kanina na may pinagbasihan po kaming code, yung movement po ng checker chips dun sa kanya is limited po. So, hindi po nasa-satisfy yung rules sa original Damat game. So, need ko po siyang baguhin. Medyo na-challenge po ako sa part na yun, pero in the end, nagawa ko naman pong i-implement. So, na-solve ko po yung problem na yon. Ginamit ko po yung debugger ng VS Code. So, ina-execute niya yung code step by step. Makikita ko kung ano ginagawa ng program. And yung cheat codes nakatulong din para mas madaling mag-debug. So, ayun lang po.
Sino pa sa grupo nyo?
Ako lang po ma'am next. Siguro yung nagustuhan ko yung pause menu namin kasi ang cute lang tingnan. Tapos yung pinakanahirapan, siguro yung pag-restrict sa users na as a player na mag-select ng iba pang piece kapag may na-move na silang piece tapos available pa yung pwede niyang i-capture. Ayan. Yun lang.
Ako naman po, ma'am, yung nagustuhan ko po, yung sa board po, yung sa choices. Tapos doon naman po ako na-challenge sa sa design ng chips, ng board, ng backgrounds. Hindi naman po siya mahirap, ma'am. Ma-arte lang po ako. Yun lang po.
Okay. So, last na lang, no? Ano pa yung pwede nyong i-introduce? Or gagawa ba kayo ng bago dito? Ano yung mga i-improve?
So, ang balak pa na pong i-improve is yung polish ng game, pagka-polish po niya. So, hindi po kami sure pero may mga bugs pa po ata na hindi namin na-discover. So, balak po din namin ayusin yon. Then, balak po namin maglagay ng customizable chips. Kasi as of now, teams pa lang po yung maka-customize namin. Then, inaantay pa po namin yung mga soundtrack, yung pang-in-game po.
Actually, na-appreciate ko yung point na gumagalaw-galaw. Medyo parang katulad dyan nung kanina, yung universe na umiikot, no? So, kung paano mo siya pinagalaw, that's something. No? Kaya, maganda. Okay. So, this is group 4 or group 2?
Group 4 po, ma'am.
Group 4, congratulations. No?
Thank you po, ma'am.
Ganda. Maganda rin ang gawa ninyo. Ang daming magaganda lahat ang gawa ng mga...
Kayo po ba, ma'am? May suggestion po ba kayo sa amin para po sa finals?
Siguro maganda, lagyan nyo ng shade. Or, actually maganda na naman eh. Siguro, lang. Ando na yung napagalaw niya eh. Alam ko na. Kaya niya siya medyo may fluidity.
Animations po, ma'am,
Fluidity. Pagiging fluid.
Yung pag-move po ng chips. Wala po kasi siyang animation.
Yun yung nakikita ko.
Sige po, ma'am. Salamat po.
Paano ba masasabi yun? Masasabi yung hindi ko alam kung sa 3D ba yun or sa pero hindi sa 3D. Yung pagiging niya parang may tubig. Parang
siguro po, ma'am, dahil medyo lagi po sa stream. Pero usually fluid naman po siya sa amin.
Sige.
Siguro po allow na lang po namin na mag-exceed sa 60 FPS if kaya po.
tingnan nyo na lang kung ano yung pwede nyo pang maidagdag. Pero sa akin kasi parang yun lang. Pero actually maganda na yung ano, lalo na yung umiikot-ikot yung ano, yung
Yung chips po.
maganda siya. Okay. Ayan, congrats. Congrats, Group 4. Good job. Impressive talaga mga gawa ng ano, ng second year, ha? Na siguro maganda, no? Sinimulan talaga kayong ano, mag-explore ng ganito. Kasi alam nyo, itong ginagawa nyo ito, no? Pagdating ng research, napakadali na kayong mag-simulate. Saka ano, ang kagandahan nitong subject natin, hindi lang tayo theory, no? Meron tayong application, nakikita natin kung paano natin i-apply itong ating modeling and simulation. Very useful to, lalo na dun sa research, no? Sabi ko nga, no? Kahit sana yung sa fourth year na nag-present, uulit pa talaga. Actually, 4 yung inupuan ko na umulit sa research. Ano ibig sabihin nun? Sakit ng ulo yun, no? Hindi nila nakapag-ano ng maayos. Hindi na nga nakabuo ng app. Tapos wala pang modeling and simulation. So, Mario set naman. Wala, hindi ko talaga na-appreciate yung cellular ano na yun. Mas natuwa pa ako dun sa gawa nun sa mukhang COVID na ano. Okay pa yon. Sana may ganun man lang sila. No? Na-share mo ng tuloy yung mga yun. Para hindi sila nag-effort, ang dami-dami nilang time, nakakainis pagkagad. Kayo nga, diba? Iksi lang ng time yung gaganda ng mga output niyo. Pero dahil research naman sila, okay, sige, forgiven. Pero ang tagal na nilang pinag-iisipan yung mga research na yun. Kayo, pagdating nyo, mas ready kayo. Yan ang masasabi ko. Good job, good job, good job, everyone. Okay, so, next, yung ating last group, group 2. Ready ka na? Astra. Second audio, ha?
So, a pleasant afternoon to everyone. So, we're Group 2, and we are here to present our project, in which we were tasked to create a simple computer simulation and presenting Astra AN body gravity simulation. So, moving forward to our project description. So, Astra and body gravity interaction is a simulation intended to visualize how celestial bodies in our universe interact with each other, mainly due to the presence of gravity. By this simulation, we are expecting that the user will be able to deepen his or her understanding about different factors that constitutes this interaction. To effectively facilitate this, we include all the necessary parameters that are crucial for the said phenomena, including the gravitational constant, number of bodies present, body's mass, velocity, and position. All of these were set to be highly tweakable so that the users can play with these attributes and really know it for themselves the effects of how changing these physical values alter the body's behavior in one way or another. Now let me call on Mr. John Paul Beltran for the project scope.
So here's our project scope. Describe the work to be accomplished. An interactive gravity simulation app that allows its user to simulate gravity interaction of heavenly bodies with different masses and velocities. The simulation app contains different basic parameters that the user can change to create a different environment and a randomizing function to allow different kinds of scenarios in the same parameter setup. Together, this creates almost countless number of sequence of events that the user will witness. What's the purpose or business need for this project? The project's primary purpose is to make a highly interactable and body gravity simulation app that is very easy to use as a supplementary material for physics lesson in classrooms. In addition, to make an app that is very accessible so that any curious man can use it. So who are stakeholders or users? The possible users are students and teachers, especially in high school that is teaching gravity physics.
But it's not only limited to that, but it can also be used by anyone that is curious within this topic and can be a possible user. Next slide, please.
So now, objectives. Dinig po ba ako? Okay. So, we have here technical objective and scheduled objective. First, in technical objective, using Python, create an interactive gravity simulation and use a correct syntax and logic for the program or project. Allow users to simulate the particles or the body with their desired input or parameter. Help users to understand how gravity interaction works. The schedule objective to be able to create and develop an body gravity simulation using Python within the given period of time. Next.
Ano nangyari? Naputol?
Mr. Aloysius.
Sorry po. Okay, so now we proceed to the deliverables. Next. Hello. Rinig po ba?
Yes, rinig ka.
Ayan. So, ayan. For our internal deliverables, we have the initial and final source code in that .py file, the executable file, the documentation, the flowchart, and our program logo. Next, sir. So for our external deliverables, we have first the FPS, G constant, and tracing, which will be seen in the GUI of the application. Number 2 is the bodies, the random X velocity, random Y velocity, and random small body, which are also variables you can change after restarting the application. And third, we have the restart simulation function that would restart the entire simulation. Okay, next.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Glycel Belano, and in this part, I will be discussing the basic flow of our code via flowchart. First, we initialize the initial values of the global physics like the velocity and mass of the bodies that will represent the celestial bodies and the gravity of its environment. At the beginning, we also set the FPS of the simulation where it also includes the setup for the GUI and then create the mentioned bodies. Next, the program will now output the aforementioned altogether, the bodies with its physics values, text fields for the X and Y velocity and mass of all bodies, slider for the FPS, G constant, tracing, and number of bodies. The outputs, such as the text fields and sliders, can accept input from the user, which enables the user to change the appearance of the simulation. After that, is condition for the X button of the window. If the user pressed the X button, the application will close, but if not, the code will continue to run the other several arguments. If the slider for the FPS, G constant, and tracing moved, the program will automatically apply the changes and point back to the second part of the program to show again the simulation with the adjustments created by the user. But if the argument turns out to be false, it will just simply run the other conditions next to it. As for the arguments that will run if the X button is not pressed, if the user moves the slider for the number of bodies, the program will automatically set these inputs as its new values. The same thing happens if the user inputs a new value on the text fields for the X and Y velocity and mass. If these arguments also turns out to be false, it will also just simply run the conditions after it. Lastly, if the restart button is pressed, the new values that are set for the number of bodies, X and Y velocity, and mass will be applied, and the FPS, G constant, and tracing values will go back to its initial values. This block also points to the part where the output happens. The same thing will happen if the condition is false, but in this time, changes won't be applied. To conclude, the application will continuously show the simulation until the X button is pressed. Live changes will apply for the environment when adjusted, while the changes on the objects or bodies will only apply once the restart button is pressed. The next slide will be presented by Aloysius.
Okay, so there are only three success factors that determine the success of this program. First is that the clients of n-body gravity simulation are all satisfied of how the program develops. The program simulates gravity in heaven. And number two, the users are able to learn about gravity in space. And number three, the objectives of the simulation are all accomplished and without errors or bugs.
Good afternoon po. For the roles and responsibilities, this collaborative project cannot be completed without the initiative of everyone and eagerness of our project manager, John Paul Beltran, who leads into planning, monitoring, and executing the completion of the projects as well as managing and organizing the group. Then the technical writers, Jana Marie Buco and Angel Jane Labuto, who are responsible for creating a PowerPoint presentation and documentation that clearly and concisely shows how this program works. Our system analyst, Aloysius Knight de la Cruz, who's responsible in implementing and monitoring the effectiveness of the system and program. Glyzel Nicole Belaño, our business analyst in charge of identifying areas for improvement in our group systems and processes and to ensure that these apps specifications and expectations are met. John Paul Beltran, our programmer who write, modify, test code, and ensure that the program function properly. Lastly, the technical architect, Julius Ivan Abude, who is in charge of overseeing the implementation of programs. So that would be all for roles and responsibilities.
Next is the implementation of the program. First, our tasks and activities are the system production and design development and presentation of the simulation. Next, the tools and technology we used for developing the app is Python and PyCharm as an IDE. Next, our procedure for project is using the Agile Scrum method, and for the task process control is the Scrum using iteration process.
Hello. So for project and milestone here, in December 5, in our first meeting, we supposed to talk what kind of app we will make. But since Mr. Beltran had an interesting suggestion, he explained it to us, and we all agreed that we will do this project. Then in in December 8, 2022, we managed to design the project, create the flowchart, and improve it more. Next, in December 13, we started to develop our project, develop it more features and the app, and we also started doing the PowerPoint presentation. And now we are presenting our project.
Kita po ba? Kita po ba yung
Oo.
presentation namin?
Oo.
So ito po, una, nag-import po kami ng different modules, Pygame, Random, Math, Ether Tools, at Pygame GUI. Ito ho yung width and height ng aming window kapag binuksan ho, ganyan yung width. So 720p in short. Ito po yung yung initial physics values ho namin. So starting position, ito ho yung XY. Tapos ito po yung initial X velocity ho. Lower at upper bound. So ito naman po yung Y velocity, lower at upper bound. Ito naman po yung initial mass. So from 10 masses to 50 masses, ano lang ho siya, parang absolute na unit ho, parang wala hong solid na unit. Tas initial bodies, kung ilan ho yung bodies na meron sa screen. So meron hong feature yung app namin for tracing, magkakaroon ho ng trail yung particles. So at default, false ho siya, naka-off. Tas ito ho yung kung gaano kabilis ho mag-decay or gaano kahaba ho yung trail ng. So ito yung class body. Ito yung nagko-contain ho ng template ho ng buong lahat ng particles na nasa screen kung paano ho siya. So una ho, draw circle. So basically kung paano ho nabuo ng circle yung Pygame is nagawa ho siya ng square muna. Tapos ganito ho yung size. Tapos yung radius ho niya is nakadepende ho dun sa mass. So ginawa ho namin, dinepende ho namin sa mass yung radius ho ng circle namin para ho hindi siya parang mag-make sense ho na parang mas malaki yung particle, mas malaki yung mass ho. So arbitrary formula lang ho. Mass divided by pi tas cube root ho. So yung again yung Pygame ho, paano siya nagawa ng circle is nabuo muna ho siya ng square. Tapos i-fill ho siya ng specify natin color which is black. Tapos ho dito, gagawa ho siya ng bilog dun sa loob ng square na ho yun. So parang sa loob ng square is yung bilog. So ito yung initial parameters ho ng physics ho natin, mass, x position, y position, x velocity, y velocity, x acceleration, and y acceleration. So ito naman ho yung methods for velocity and acceleration. Kung gaano kabilis yung particle. At ito naman ho yung methods for x and y movements. So saan ho sila papunta. So after ho yan, is ito yung method ho for updating ho yung movement. So dito ho magaganap yung parang pinaka-movement. Pero before ho siya pumunta dyan, nandito ho muna sa move. So para magpapasahan ho sila itong ng mga values ho, ito, as ito ho. Kapag tapos na ho yung update, ipapasa naman ho dito to update ho yung pinaka-position ho ng particle. Tapos nandito po yung pinaka-physics, yung gravity. So nandito yung sa comments ho kung paano namin compute. So ito yung formula for Newton's law of gravitation. Tapos ito yung constant, which is sobrang liit ho niya. So hindi ho naman siya totally ginamit sa pinaka-physics kasi parang halos wala hong movement sa sobrang liit ho niya. Pero ano naman ho to? Makita ho nyo mama is pwedeng i-tweak ho ng user kung gaano kalaki or kaliit. So ito naman ho, kino-compute niya ho yung position. Ito ho. So x distance, y distance. Ito naman ho, kino-compute ho yung pinaka-distance ho using Pythagorean theorem. Ito yung para sa pinaka-sprite collision. If mas maliit sa radius yung distance, magba-bounce back ho yung velocity by a certain, multiply ho siya sa negative in a certain number na mas malapit ho sa 1. So hindi ho siya parang magi-stack ho lang ho sa loop. So kung hindi ho siya kung hindi mas maliit yung radius sa distance, ganito ho yung pinaka-physics ho na mangyayari. So acceleration niya ho is kukunin ho yung g constant na sinet ho ng user. Tapos yung mass ho ng isang body, tapos yung radius ho niya i-squared ho. Kunin ho yung angle. So ito naman ho the rest ho is, sa comment. This part allows the body to accelerate in an opposite manner. Tapos if in case ho na magkaroon ng zero division error, kapag nag-pass through ho, sa isa't isa yung mga masses, ganyan lang ho gagawin. Parang i-bounce back lang ho in a certain number. So hindi ho siya mag-error. Dito na ho yung pinaka-main game loop. Uno, tatawagin ho yung global trace at trace alpha. Ito ho yun. trace to trace alpha para makita kung naka-enable ho yung trace or naka-off. So ito yung setup. So kunin ho yung icon, tapos i-display ho yung icon dun sa window caption. So ito yung taga-manage ho ng clock. Kasi ito ho, yung taga-manage naman ho, kung naka-check ho, kung sinara ho or nakabukas pa din ho yung window. So isa-set ho so true kapag in-ex ho yung window, tapos magsasara na ho yung buong app. Kasi ito naman ho, yung taga-gawa ho ng screen para ho, parang dito is kung nakaset ho sa true yung trace, dito ho i-drawing yung yung particles, magkakaroon ho sila ng trail. So ito ho yung initial na value. So note that G in real life is very small number, it wouldn't scale in our simulation. Kasi ito yung for loop po sa pagbuo ng particle ho, sa makikita nyo sa lahat ng screen. So ano siya, kung ilan ho yung sinet nyo na bodies, ganun rin ho siya maglo-loop. Tapos yung pang zero ho ayun ho, yung pang zero ho na body is yung malaking maso na makita nyo sa gitna ng screen, which is makita nyo muna. Yun muna. Tapos sunod naman ho is kukunin niya ho yung list ng lahat ng bodies na nakarate ho sa screen. Kasi gamit ho kami ng ether tools para gawin lahat ng pairs, creates all pair combination in the list, which is gagamitin ho mamaya. Ito naman ho yung GUI. Mga buttons, sliders, text boxes, text fields, and ho. Kasi ito na ho yung main game loop. So ito yung nagmamanage ho kung gaano kabilis ho yung pag-tick ho, yung parang FPS ho ng mga GUI. Tapos ito naman ho yung taga-manage ho ng ito naman ho kapag kininose ho, tapos yung the rest ho dito is yung mga GUI kung anong mangyayari ho. So, nangyari ho, sinet ko sa yung first field ho ng initial mass into something, mababago ho siya dito sa pinakataas. Mababago ho siya dito. So, magre-require ho ng, ito naman ho yung restart button. Kapag nag-restart ho, lahat ho ng values na to, ipapasa ho dito. Is mamaya, explain ko mamaya. Tapos ito naman yung pinaka parang mag-interact yung mga particles sa isa't isa. So lahat ng nagawang pair combination sa ether tools, i-fed ho dito sa for loop. So tawagin ho itong mga definitions sa to. Tapos manager update time delta, ito yung nagma-manage ho kung gaano kabilis yung GUI. So ito naman ho yung para i-build ho yung pinaka-trace screen. So ito yung normal na screen, ito ho yung yung trace screen. Tapos kung false ho, sa normal ho na screen lang ho yung kung false ho yung trace, nasa normal na screen ho yung particles. Kung true naman ho, i-draw ho dun sa trace screen. Magkakaroon ho sila ng parang trail. So next naman ho, kung napindot ho ng user yung restart simulation, kung tatawagin ho ito, gamit itong global, babaguhin niya ho lahat ng values ho na nandito. Babaguhin niya ho yung lahat ng values na nilagay dito para mag-run ho ng bagong simulation. Tapos, since yung kapag nagbaliktad ho yung mass, magkakaroon ho siya ng error. In case na ma-detection ng error, i-reverse niya ho yung list. Para maiwasan yung error dun sa mismong syntax, tapos tatawagin niya ho ulit yung main. So, ganun ho siya. So, ganito yung makikita nyo. So, kita ho ba? So, pwede na makita nyo. So, itong G constant to, itong FPS, parang pwede nyo pabagalin, parang medyo laggy isura, para mas ma-observe nyo po lalo, or patasin para mas mukhang smooth. Itong G constant, pwede nyo parang magmukhang pabilisin ho yung nangyayari. Pero hindi ho siya necessarily na parang pampabilis lang ho. Parang, ito kasi yung constant ni Newton sa gravity. So, mas malakas ho, parang mas malakas yung attraction ho nila sa isa't isa. So ito yung nasa ilalim ng live change parameters. Kumbaga, lahat daw dito, magte-take effect agad. Makita nyo agad na change kapag nagawa. Ito yung tracing ho. Kapag naka-enable, kakaroon ho ng trace. So ito naman kung gaano kabilis mag-fade. Makita nyo lahat, ho siya, elliptical ho lahat ng orbit. Wala ho kayo makita parang perfect circle. Lahat ho sila nag-orbit in an elliptical way, which is parang nakita nyo dito na ano, yung first law ng ano, first law ni Kepler, ito ho. Law of planetary motion. Each planet's orbit the sun is an ellipse. Applicable ho to sa lahat. Wala ho talagang perfect circle na orbit, kundi ellipse lang, which is nare-reflect ho dito very well. Yes naman ho dito sa body slider. Lahat ho pala dito sa ilalim na to, need ho ng restart simulation dito ho sa baba para ho mag-take effect. Kunyari, ganito lang ho kababa yung bodies. Start ko yung simulation. Mas onti ho. Ganyan ho. Kunyari, or mas maraming bodies. Start ko simulation. Ganyan ho siya. Or pwedeng ano, pwede ho gawin ano, 0 lang ho to. Kahit anong number ho ilagay ko. Or 0.95. Ganun. Require ho pala dito na yung, ano, i-press yung enter para mag-take effect yung mga ano, yung mga values ho. -1. Or ganun, gawin ko itong 0.02. Gawin ko itong ano, 5. Ayun lang. 25. 100. And ho.
Nang-collect to ng data.
Ayun, for now, hindi pa ho siya na, di ho pa namin na-figure ko paano i-collect yung data. Tapos, ano, parang may mga features pa ho kami naisip na pwede ho namin idagdag. So, explain ko na lang ho mamaya. Ito ho, need ho talaga ng i-enter after nyo ho i-type. Need nyo i-enter para mag-take effect. Tapos, restart ko yung simulation. Makita nyo ho. So, too high na velocity, sobrang bilis. Hindi ho siya makukot ng gravity. Kita nyo ho ba? Ganun ho siya in real life. Kapag sobrang bilis ho, parang slingshot lang ho. Slingshot lang ho siya. Hindi ho siya makukot. Makukot naman ho siya ng gravity, pero parang magbebend lang ho ng onte yung ano niya, yung path niya. Ayan ho, ganyan ho siya. So, ayun na yung gawa ho namin.
Okay. Meron pa ba kayo? Nana?
So, okay na ho. Balik ko sa presentation.
Nakapagtanong na ako agad.
Tapos ito po yung sa reference namin. Dito po kami kumuha ng mga ideas. Tapos po.
Okay. Sige. Isagutin natin yung ating standard na question, no? Kailangan natin ng tatlong sasagot sa inyong site, no? So, anong feature dun sa games na yung simulation na ginawa nyo ang paborito nyo at bakit? And then, doon sa program na ginawa nyo, anong part doon ang nahirapan kayo at paano nyo siya ni-resolve? Ayan. Sige.
So, ako muna. So, yung nagustuhan kong part po ng simulation namin is parang, first of all, parang na-depict ko namin accurately yung physics so in real life. Secondly, parang siya, almost countless na possibility since may random function ho kami. And secondly, thirdly, parang reflect ko yung yung na-observe ho natin in real life. So, wait lang, may papakita lang ho ako. Share screen. So, ito yung black hole sa gitna ng universe natin. Gitna ng Milky Way. Parang na-imagine ko ho ito after ko namin matatapos yung pinaka-up, which na kitang-kita. Ganyan, no? So, makita nyo, highly elliptical kapag they get closer dun sa pinakamalaking mass. Medyo bilog ho siya kapag mas malayo. Which is nare-reflect ho ng simulation ho namin. So, isa sa nirapang part ho kami is yung restart simulation feature. Which is paano ho namin i-restart yung buong simulation with the values na sinet ho ng user. So, ayun lang ho. So, yung next is...
Ako po yung next. Yung isa naman po sa nahirapan kami is yung implementation ng GUI. Pero after finding many tutorials and documentations, na-resolve naman po namin siya. Tapos yung favorite feature ko naman po is yung pagiging customizable niya. Kasi with this feature, pwede po makapag-create yung user ng iba't ibang output through different combinations. Yun lang po.
Okay. Meron pa ba? Wala na? Last na si Glycel, ano? Okay. Right. Good job, everyone. Diba? You are, I am amazed, no? Awesome, 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 awesome works, no? So, ang ini-expect ko lang ay simple, no? Diba sabi ko simple muna? Iba sa inyo, lumampas pa sa pagiging simple at meron pang pwedeng may maisip, no? Dun sa kanilang ginawang app, no? Ating simulation ng mga application, no? So, good job, good job. And congratulations. Ayan. Tapos na yung inyong midterm. Ayan. So, yung iba ay moving forward, no? I-improve nila yung mga ginawa ngayon. And I'm expecting na mas lalo pang maganda yung ating ginawa, no? Okay. So, meron ba kayong, bago tayo maghiwa-hiwalay, meron ba kayong gustong i-comment dito sa ating huling presentation? Grupo ng Group 2. Meron ba kayong comment sa kanila? Wala. Okay, kung wala, ayos din lang yan, no? So, sino yung nagre-record nito? Si Romaline?
Ako
Romaline,
po, ma'am. Opo.
ako ng kopya, ha?
Sige po, ma'am.
Ano ko sa ano? Paano mo i-extend sa akin yung kopya?
G-Drive po, ma'am.
G-Drive. Bibigyan mo ako ng link. O, sige.
Yes
Okay.
po.
Kasi kailangan ko siya dahil hindi ako makapag-record dito sa ano sa sa unit ko ngayon, no? Sa kabila, andito yung recorder ko.
I-tour mo naman kami sa ano nyo, ma'am. Sa PC nyo.
Ha?
I-tour nyo po kami sa PC nyo, sa desktop. Sa desktop nyo. Yes.
Yeah, sandali. Ano natin sa ang aking workstation. Ito yung aking workstation. 2-1. Ayan. Tapos, ano ito tatawagan? Ay, walang ano? Message lang pala yun. Ano pa kukuha na ng video? Yung PC ko ito eh. Dali. O kaya pwede. Itong video. Ay, naka-internet. Dash 1 module. Okay. So, hindi ko pa ito nagamit sa video. Alin na rin natin. Nasa ano nga ba ito? Tinatawagan ko na kayo. Parang babalik ka rin. Harap sa akin eh. Ayun. Ayun. Ayan. Nakikita nyo ba? Nakaano ako dun sa ano niya, sa GC. Ay, 2-2. Mali grupo. 2-1. Ayan. Pagduhan natin ito ngayon. Close. 2-1. Okay. ako. All-ended. Ayan, 2-1 na. Nakikita nyo ba? Naka-call ako sa inyo. Nakita nyo? May echo. Ito yung station ni Ma'am Faye. Ayan, may TV dun sa likuran ko. Tapos, ito kayo, nandun yung discussion. Tapos, nandun yung iMac ko. At, ito yung aking gamit na unit, no? Sa recording, yung aking Asus. Pinadala. Okay. Okay. Masyado na naman. Ha? Naka, U. May mga... Ha? Hindi laptop yun. Ito ay Mac. Ito ay... Yung mga pan-test ko sa mga application. Okay. Dali, paano ko alis ngayon dito? And there. Okay. So, tayo ulit. Ayan. Ito yung aking opisina. Nandito yung laptop. Nandito yung iMac. Nandito yung Dell. Nandito yung TV. Si Ma'am kasi maraming ginagawang trabaho. So, pero yung mga accumulated na gamit ko dahil sa trabaho ko sa industry. Kailangan ko mag-test halimbawa ng iOS. Ayan. Meron akong iPad. Meron akong kasi iba-ibang mga devices eh. Meron sa Dell, na touchscreen, tapos dito sa desktop. Ito yung server ko, yung nandun sa likod. May TV. Okay. So, again, congratulations. Good job, good job. Diba? Mag-expect tayo ng mas maganda pa. Mas maganda pa sa I am from the bottom of my heart, I'm really very, very happy. Kasi yung mga ine-expect ko na sana makikita ko dun sa 40, dito ko nakita sa inyo, no? Wala pa kayong full-fledged na ng research. Pagdating ng research, ready na kayo. No? Walang ganong sitwasyon na yan, no? Lalo na sa CS, no? Ilan yung hawak kong CS ngayon? Ready na, no? Hindi na nila masisising dun sa ito kasi talagang nakaka-frustrate. Ang dami-dami nilang time, hindi nila inayos. Dahil daw meron silang hindi dahilan yun. Kayo nga, in short time lang, nakagawa kayo. Sila pa dapat, no? Kasi 4th year. Or baka hindi lang sa training. Anyway, okay, marami akong chika. Hindi ko na isasabahan ng aking chika. Baka kung anong makarating sa kanila. Okay. Sige, congratulations. And mabuhay tayo. At Merry Christmas. And a Happy New Year. No? 2023 na tayo ulit magkikita-kita. No? Okay. Good luck. Good luck sa atin lahat. No? Sa ating darating na taon. No? Okay.
Merry Christmas po. Thank you po.
Welcome. Right. Sige, pwede na tayong